Hello, puppies and kittens. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible. And I think I'm going to shake things up. I usually read the second one, and have somebody else read the first story of the day, and I read the second one, and then somebody else reads the third. But we very often only do three, so I'm going to do the first and the third. Y'all can figure out who comes up with the second one of the day. Okay,
we'll fight it out.
Anybody have any other comments?
Unfortunately, I'm going to miss like the first 35 minutes of the show because I have to take someone to the airport. Well, not the airport all the way, just to the train.
Yeah, well, you're not at the airport yet, so you don't have to announce your departure.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully I'll be back in time to fight for the second chapter.
You can make it to the airport and back.
No.
And miss 35. You're definitely not going to Heathrow.
No. If I was going to the airport, then it would take me 2 hours. But no, I'm just going to the train station.
Okay, the train station I can see. I mean, I couldn't understand how it was that no matter where in London I was, getting to Heathrow was at like an hour on the train. That's after you're on the train. It's an hour on the train, regardless.
Yeah.
And then one time I got one that I think it was in Gatwick, where I'm like, where the hell is it? Because I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
London area at all. I'd never even been to Heathrow yet. It was the first time I landed in London, and it was Gatwick. I'm like, or flew out of London. I'm like, where the fuck is this? It's like way out in the woods.
Yeah, it's like it's on the main line to Brighton, like the coast, and it's like it's outside London, but it's a London airport.
Yeah. I was thinking as we're driving through all these country fields and farms and stuff, I'm like, we're going to the airport, right? Or
but there is a fast train from like central London, so like all the airports are well connected. It's just it's a bit of a schlep to get all the way to Gatwick for sure.
It's true. They do actually have a very good transit system in the United Kingdom, which as an American, I understand may be a foreign concept to you.
It was a little strange. The reason that I took a taxi was because I didn't understand the concept of trains because we don't have them here.
Was that train thing something we used to have about 100 years ago or so? I can't remember much.
Yeah, much longer ago than that. I was going to take a train once upon a time. We were going to do this big rally, and we were looking at different ways of getting massive amounts of people up there. And so we looked at the trains. We're like, holy fuck no. Because here, the trains take a really stupid long time, and they cost twice as much as a plane. I'm like, why?
Because they were deliberately sabotaged.
For this price, I would overcome my fear of flying.
Yeah. Well, planes are subsidized quite a bit. Even here, it's annoying that the trains are more expensive sometimes than flying. But if you take it into account, like the comfort and like getting to a train station to get a train to another city, and then you're in the city already, you don't have to go to the airport and then back from the airport, and the security and all that is worth the difference in price. I went all the way to Spain last summer by train, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Okay. Well, next time I'm in Europe, I will definitely. The first time I went to Europe, I did planes, and I hated myself when I started realizing how ineffective that was. I was supposed to fly out of Prague and land in I think it was Frankfurt. And then when I superimposed a Texas map over the Europe map, I'm like, oh fuck.
I mean, you're American. For you, like that would be a drive. So
yeah, I mean, it's on the Autobahn. This is not an exaggeration. If I had rented a car instead of the plane, I would have gotten to Frankfurt 6 hours before my plane left.
Oh,
wow!
I believe do something like that once.
What's that?
I think Top Gear had an episode where they were trying to race a plane versus an automobile or something like that. Yeah,
well, I'm on the Autobahn. Why the fuck not? Right. So I mean, I did eventually rent a car and do that, and I remember calling my daughter from the car, and I told her I'm going 200. And she goes, that's crazy. How are you staying on the ground? I'm like, well, it's kilometers per hour.
Still, that's ridiculously fast.
That's very fast.
That is
you could have done 300 and still be legal.
Yeah.
There are cars that do 300.
Yeah.
Please don't.
But we're going to go ahead and read. All right. So we're on.
You're going to go ahead and read.
I'm going to read, yes. And you can do the next one. So we're doing 2 Chronicles, the 28th. Okay. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. He did not do what was right in the sight of the Lord, as his ancestor David had done, but he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel. He even made cast images of the Baals, and he made offerings in the valley of the Sun and Hinnom, and he made his sons pass through fire, according to the abominable practices of the nations whom the Lord had driven out before the people of Israel. He sacrificed and made offerings on the high places, on the hills, under every green tree. Therefore, the Lord, his God, gave him into the hand of the king of Aram, who defeated him and took captive a great number of people and brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who defeated him with great slaughter. Pekah, son of Remaliah, killed 120,000 in Judah in one day. All of them valiant warriors. He killed them with a pencil.
The pen is mightier than the sword, after all.
Because they had
What, he was John Wick?
The God of their ancestors. And Zikri, a mighty warrior of Ephraim, killed the king's son, Maaseiah. That was my best attempt. And then Azrikam, the commander of the palace, and Elkanah, the next authority to the king. The people of Israel took captive 200,000 of their kin, women, sons, and daughters. They also took much spoil from them and brought the spoil to Samaria. But a prophet of the Lord was there, whose name was Oved. He went out to meet the army and came to Samaria and said to them, because the Lord, the God of your ancestors, was angry with Judah, he gave them into your hand. But you have killed them in a rage that has reached up to heaven. Now you intend to subjugate the people of Judah and Jerusalem, male and female, as your slaves? But what have you except sins against the Lord your God? Now hear me, and send back the captives whom you have taken from your kindred, for the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. Moreover, certain chiefs of the Ephraimites, Azariah, son of Johanan, Berechiah, son of Meshulmilamoth, or whatever that is, Jezekiah, son of Shallum, and Amasa of Hadlai stood up against those who were coming from the war. And he said to them, you shall not bring the captives in here, for you propose to bring onto us guilt against the Lord in addition to your present sins and guilt. For our guilt is already great, and there is fierce wrath against Israel. So the warriors left the captives and the plunder before the officials and all the assembly. Then those who were mentioned by name got up and took the captives, and with the spoil they clothed all who were naked among them. They clothed them, gave them sandals, provided them with food and drink, and anointed them, and carried all the feeble among them on donkeys. They brought them to their kindred at Jericho, the city of palm trees. Then they returned to Samaria. At that time, King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help. For the Edomites had again invaded and defeated Judah and carried away captives. And the Philistines had made raids in the cities of Shephelah and Negeb of Judah, and had taken Beth Shemesh, Ajon, Gederoth, Soko with its villages, Timnah with its villages, and Gimzo with its villages, and they settled there. For the Lord brought Judah low because of King Ahaz of Israel. For he had behaved without restraint in Judah, and he had been faithless to the Lord. So King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria came against him and oppressed him instead of strengthening him. For Ahaz plundered the house of the Lord and the houses of the king of the officials, and gave tribute to the king of Assyria, but it did not help him. In the time of his distress, he became yet more faithless to the Lord, this same king, Ahaz. For he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus that he had defeated him, For he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus that had defeated him, and said, because the gods of the kings of Aram helped them, I will sacrifice to them, so that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and all Israel. Ahaz gathered together the utensils of the house of God and cut in pieces the utensils of the house of God. He shut the doors of the house of the Lord and made himself altars in every corner of Jerusalem. In every city of Judah he made high places to make offerings to other gods, provoking the anger of the Lord, the God of his ancestors. Now the rest of his acts and all his ways from first to last are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. Ahaz slept with his ancestors, and they buried him in the city in Jerusalem. But they did not bring him into the tombs of the kings of Israel. His son Hezekiah succeeded him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just have to know, did I cause Tomer any physical pain in reading that?
And not really.
Hey, I thought Meshillamoth was pretty good. There are a few interesting...
Mishlimot. Sorry.
No.
Meshillamoth.
Meshillamoth is pretty good.
Meshillamoth.
So a few things that we can notice about this chapter. So one, and this is more of like, cats, are you fighting back there? Okay. So one of the first things that pops out is if you compare it to other chapters of Chronicles and the King's narrative, you get this what is it called? I know that there is like a name for this, like a philosophical name for this, but when something isn't working out, they're all like, oh, it's because he did what was he didn't do what was right in the sight of the Lord. And if something is working out, it's like, oh, well, that's because, you know, God remembered his promise or something like that. It's very much like they set themselves up for that win-win situation where there's no possible way that their interpretation couldn't fit the narrative because they just force it in.
It's heads I win, tails you lose. There's no version of reality in which they're actually judging anything by its consequences. I mean, he followed in the ways of his fathers and I guess paid for statues and supported the arts. And the thing about making your sons pass through the fire, like I was taught, obviously, I'm sure most of you were too, that was, you know, they were sacrificing their children to Molech, who isn't actually a god, it's just a term, but whatever. And yet I'm really, really hesitant to believe that now, because what better way to pretend moral superiority than to pretend that your enemies are killing their kids? I mean, that's what the right has always done, is just make up stories about how the others are monsters killing kids. And in fact, apparently dead baby is...
They're eating the dogs.
Favorite seasoning. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how many kids did David kill? Like, all of God's favorites actually kill kids, like tons of them. It's his favorite thing. Like, not raindrops and roses and dead baby piles.
I mean, I don't think we can definitively say what exactly passing the sons in fire means. According to Klein, at least, it is usually taken to refer to child sacrifice, but he writes that some have argued that it refers to something like an ordeal. He notes that passing a child through fire appears in a list with various divinatory practices in Deuteronomy 18:10, and Nelson, in his commentary on Deuteronomy, indicates that this passage may refer to a non-lethal ritual of dedication by fire. And
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of like, you know, the idea of like fire purifying things is like, you know, very, very common. I also want to point out here at the very tail end of this chapter, where, in every city of Judah, he made high places to make offerings to other gods, provoking to anger the Lord, God of his ancestors. So in other sections, I don't remember how often this pops up, if at all. But when we get references to the high places being built, I don't think it usually specifies that it's to other gods. So the implication would be that his one of his big sins was building high places to other gods. Now, does that carry the implication that the high places in other parts of the book were for him? I say yes. Historically, yes. They all would have been worshiping the same deity, and they had these high places. Yes,
of course,
absolutely. But
Yeah.
I don't know that. I don't think the text is trying to say that. It's been pretending that the high places are this evil foreign invention for other gods the whole time, even though literally none of the evidence.
Why would you
that,
specify here that it's two other gods if that was?
It's a Freudian slip.
Yeah. So it's to me that's telling. But I do not remember. If I am wrong, please tell me. But I don't remember specific reference to like, oh yeah, one of the big sins was high places to other gods. Because if we remember, Jeroboam and the golden calves, they were specifically related to Yahweh. These are the gods that brought you out of the land of Egypt. That's Yahweh. So clearly, clearly they saw that these things were supposed to be for Yahweh, even if the establishment priesthood was like, oh, well, this is a bad way of doing it. You can't be doing it that way.
Well, yeah, all the evidence that we've discussed thus far suggests that the high places were far more the original method of worship to the area for Yahweh and any other god.
Yeah, and then they got centralized.
Yeah, and then the establishment wanted more power, so it said, actually, this is an evil, dirty pagan invention and not an ancient tradition, and stop it. What on earth, Aaron?
That is the biggest blunt I've ever seen.
Blaze it, man. Blaze it.
Puff, puff, pass, my man. Ooh.
Yeah, there's somebody in here that I can't reach in and get.
He's like, no,
Oh,
I'm
hi,
shy.
Danger Noodle. It's okay.
Yeah.
You stay where you're safe.
Yeah.
He's a good baby.
This one is 6'4".
Wow.
Australian jungle carpet python and diamond python hybrid.
Wow.
But it's a little spicy because it hasn't been handled much. So this is my first time going to handle it at home. And she already struck at me.
Okay, yeah. Maybe she just like a cat, like she's curled up away and just needs to kind of breathe.
Yeah, well, part of they got to get accustomed to being.
They
here,
do.
You know?
They do. And
well, I'm not gonna be forceful in all of that. I'm just.
Yeah, she can sit in her. Yeah, she can sit in her wood and listen to us blaspheme. Hopefully that appeases her serpentine.
I've got to get a routine down that they know that they get handled, they get put back, that every time they come out, they know they're going to be going back, and it'll all be good, just like every other time.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the passing through fire, I know obviously the story is, but you could totally have sort of a baptismal ritual where you like weigh the baby over a sacred flame or something. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just saying we don't know.
Okay, so I'll start.
Oh wait, I got a comment to read.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, bunny with a banner, and I always seem to misread that. Bunny with a banner says, "Hi, Aaron. Agree on Altered States being crap. Thought it'd be a deep, trippy atheist film, but it's just do drugs, be caveman, meet God. Misrepresents evolution too. Total cover bait." Yeah. Oof. Yeah. When I saw Altered States when it first came out many, many years ago, I remember thinking it was meh. And then my son saw it and pointed out a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't even notice. And it was talking about what a deplorably bad movie that is. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Because I was like 20 when I first saw it. And then next comment from an internet user who says, Aaron, could you make a video on Paul, his letters, and his highly significant influence on early Christianity? There's also plenty of cases where Paul contradicts Jesus and his apostles. I actually wanted to do that. and I probably will. I would be surprised if Lawrence hasn't already done it first.
Well, no, I have not done one specifically on the influence of Paul, because the thing is, the conversation is a lot muddier because we have to compare the authentic Paulines with the pseudo Paulines, and then there is debate over, how much would Paul have actually known about the Jesus tradition, and why he doesn't actually say like almost anything at all about the life of Jesus other than that he died on a cross, basically.
I'm inclined to read all of the stuff attributed to Paul and then have a discussion with you as to which ones are or are not and why they think so.
Yeah, I mean, once we get to the New Testament, I'll be going over those like more in detail.
I don't want to wait years.
Hey guys, there's lots to be said on the Pauline legacy, and frankly, the rather mythical portrayal of him in the Acts, the Luke Acts version of Acts, which
And
is
Paul
not the
does
only
say
one.
some pretty stupid things.
He does. That's the thing. If you look at the version of him that's presented in Acts, it's very sort of heroic, dramatic character. Oh, it's not for me, it's for the greater good of God, blah, 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 blah. If you listen to him when he's writing, half the time he's a narcissistic bitch throwing a tantrum.
That is accurate.
Yeah. So, like, it's the version of him in Acts is fanon. It just is. I'm sorry. It's not real. It's fanon as fuck.
And then a comment from somebody going by the name of The Venom Inside says, Aaron, you have been inspirational in helping me find my way out. Thank you very much for sharing that. It's that more than anything is what keeps me going, because I get messages like that almost daily and have been for like a decade. So thank you. Bruno Zeigertz offers $5 Canadian. Says Paulogia does several videos on Paul and the early church. Yeah, but not like I would.
True.
And
Apologia
certainly
is
not like what
very
Lawrence would.
Apologia is very reasonable and often kinder than I would be. Tries to be very balanced. And I think there's a difficulty I know with when you communicate anything that there's this much nuanced opinion about. You have a style, Aaron, that has helped me and a lot of people get out of bullshit by just cutting through and putting pithy, clear statements. Scholars don't do that because they get so they want to be very measured and balanced about everything. And while I totally understand and respect that, at the same time, when you want to communicate, sometimes you just have to get to the damn point.
Yep.
Is why I frequently call God a little bitch.
Okay. So do we have any comments?
Yeah, you made the Bible metal, man. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you very much.
Oh my God, Ozzy! We forgot to toast Ozzy.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I
gotta get something. I gotta get drinks. Drinks for Ozzy.
All right, so yeah, I guess I can drink some of this. It's on its almost its last legs here. So I mean, I do have some Captain Morgan as well, but actually I'm running low on that too. So this is what is this? Artisanal rum plantation. Never liked that name, but it's dark rum. It's all right. It's all right. Now maybe my my mid taste buds have just been having too much Captain Morgan, but I still do prefer the Captain Morgan.
There's nothing wrong with Captain Morgan, man. I've got private stock
great,
here. There you go.
See, I don't know what you guys are doing.
Me, I'm fresh out. I need to go get some.
But I am drinking out of the bottle. So like,
ooh. Well, you know what we're missing though, right? We're
Lilith?
missing a bat.
Oh, I'm bat. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I saw a really funny comic. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, where there was a comic strip where Ozzy's in heaven, or right, and then next to him is the bat, and the bat says like,
all right, it's playtime.
Yeah, I saw something like that. Yeah, it was pretty good
Yeah,
stuff.
it was so good. It was. So
I like the
funny.
one where Ozzy's in heaven and Jesus is holding a dove and Ozzy's trying to bite it. Jesus says, "Don't do it." But my favorite one is Ozzy ends up in hell. Says, where am I? And then Lemmy turns to Satan and says, "You can go. The Prince of Darkness has just arrived."
Yes.
Oh man, Ozzy, what a career that dude had.
Oh
Real
my
quick.
God.
So my
World
favorite
plug here.
Ozzy quote:
Yep.
"A house without a dog is like a garden without flowers."
I respect it.
Anyways, let's drink.
To the Prince of Darkness.
Ozzy, Rest in Hell. Wonderful, wonderful.
Rock
beast.
in hell. And
Rock in hell. You are
rock
right.
in hell. And if there is
Rock
any
in
afterlife,
hell.
you and Lucy are doing shots. We all know it.
Damn.
Yeah, it makes me want to watch Little Nicky again.
Oh yeah, if you guys ever played Brutal Legend, that game actually has a really awesome scene with Ozzy coming in there and helping the main character in that game. Old game. Oh, it's so awesome though. The best part of the entire game.
Sweet. Sounds
Yeah,
sweet.
It is. It is.
Oh, my hell's bells gotta do Ozzy, because I know he would end up rocking at Margaritaville with Asmodeus. They would be so drunk.
Also fuck Hulk Hogan.
I wasn't even gonna say his name. I wasn't even gonna say his name.
No, I have to. As a wrestling fan, I have to. As much as he did for the industry, he's a piece of shit. So
yeah, he is a piece
well, now he can just taste that boot leather forever. Bitch boy.
So, Tomer, are you going to quit holding up the show and read your commentary?
Yeah, jeez, taking forever, man. Every time.
Yeah, I don't feel like it.
see, I think Tomer finally understands the concept of edging. Good job.
Oh my God.
I was not ready for that.
Yeah.
Where's my crop?
Okay. I think I need more of this now.
So I'll note that this is paralleled with 2 Kings 16, and I'll start with verses 2 and 3. The chronicler added more information about Ahaz's apostasy, not found in the Volage of 2 Kings 16, namely making molten images for the Baals, something which Jeroboam I was castigated for in 1 Kings 14:9, and is outlawed in Exodus 34:17, as well as making offerings, hektir, in the valley of Ben Hinnom. In contrast to 2 Kings 16:3, which states that he passed He'evil, his son, Bno, in the fire, the Masoretic text of Chronicles reads that he burned Hevil, his sons, Banav. Most other translations and one Hebrew manuscript read Vaya'avil, and he passed, which leads some scholars, like Klein, to take the Masoretic text to be an error, though others believe that the reading in the Masoretic text represents a heightening of Ahaz's wickedness, or making the accusation explicitly clear, according to Smelik and Japhet. The reading his sons might be an exaggeration by the chronicler, according to Rudolph, but he might have followed an alternative text to Kings, preserving the Lusanic recension. According to Targum, of the sons of Ahaz, Yahweh rescued Hezekiah, quote, because it had been revealed before the Lord that from him 3 righteous men were destined to come forth, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, who were determined to hand over their bodies to be thrown into the midst of the furnace of burning fire for the sake of the great and glorious name, and they were rescued from the fire.
Oh my fucking God. Okay. So for my Christians back home, that's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yeah, I know, but we have to. And so, yeah, so this comment guy's saying that Hezekiah was going to pass through the flame to Moloch, and God magically saved him because he knew that someday his descendants would be these 3 dudes in an offshoot story who would also walk into a furnace, and it would be magic. But he had it revealed in the presence of the Lord, which apparently means God doesn't know or make these things happen. He's as much a victim of prophecy as everything else. So that's interesting.
That has the real ring
Yeah.
of, hey guys, look, God said I don't have to do this.
Yeah, because I'm special. I'm formed
Oh.
for a greater destiny.
Jeez, if you have a modicum of intellect, you should be able to understand how ridiculous half of this stuff is. Oh, I love it.
Avoid
Tomer!
Oh.
prophets,
What else you got?
Adjo, and
Make
above
me
all,
laugh right now.
avoid those
Oh.
willing to die for the truth.
And that's not all. It has a long list of all the people who were rescued from the burning of the furnace, such as or from the fire, listing Abraham, Tamar, Hezekiah, son of Jotham, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and Joshua, son of Yozadak. So yeah, yeah.
Sure, Jan. Magic, fire, God, shit. Cool. Totes real, very believe. Anyway.
Oh, Gen Z totally understands what you're saying, too. You speak Z. I'm impressed.
Well, yeah, but the level of not giving a fuck is Gen X, so it's really more of a crossover.
Yeah.
That's fair. I can give that.
Okay, on verse 5. This verse is parallel with 2 Kings 16:5, but presents an opposite picture of the event. According to Kings, the kings of Aram and Israel attacked Ahaz and sieged upon Jerusalem, but couldn't conquer it. According to Isaiah 7, the kings of Aram and Israel tried to force Ahaz to join their war against Azariah, or to make Ben Tabel as king in Jerusalem. According to 2 Kings 16:7, Ahaz then turned to Tiglath-Pileser, who in turn conquered Damascus, killed Rezin, its king, and exiled its citizens, as we see in 2 Kings 15:29 and 69. Chronicles tells a very different story. The kings of Aram and Israel did not cooperate, but attacked Judah separately, and Ahaz suffered defeat from each one of them. Jerusalem isn't mentioned, and Ahaz was inflicted with a great defeat, although in 2 Kings 16:5 it is said that they couldn't fight. Japhet writes that this opposite view could be explained as the chronicler's theological reworking, which inverted the data of Kings and Isaiah upside down. It could be, however, that the chronicler is telling different incidents related to kings only by their topic. She writes, quote, "Within the framework of the relationship between Judah and her two northern neighbors in those troubled days of crisis, one would assume that there were frequent incidents of conflict, only one of which, the attempt to conquer Jerusalem, is mentioned in Kings."
I mean, it's giving like the Judges very back and forth raidy vibe. There really doesn't seem to be all that much difference between the stability of the era of Judges and the era of Kings. I'm just saying. Also, I wanted to mention earlier, when it says he gets really pissed that he gave offerings to the other gods of the people who had defeated him. Yahweh's supposed to be a war god. If another god defeats you, it means that their god defeated your god. If you switch allegiance, you're just doing the only sensible thing according to a polytheistic mindset.
No, but the thing is, right, you got to remember it's because they were so bad that's how he punished them.
Right, by sending other gods
Eve.
to humiliate him in front of everyone and make him their bitch. And then his people would go and worship the other gods because they'd clearly proven themselves superior, and then Yahweh would whine like a little bitch.
Millions of people are in graveyards across the world thinking that God was on their side.
Yep.
On verse 6, this is the only place in Chronicles where Pekach is mentioned. Again, the numbers are unrealistic, especially given the 200,000 Judeans taken captive in verse 8, and that it occurred in a single day. Klein notes that the chronicler highlights the tragedy by noting that all the victims were warriors. He writes that the high numbers are the chronicler's way of describing a decisive victory by the North, and also showing that this battle rivaled in magnitude the 500,000 killed by Abia in 1317. He notes Ben Tzvi's opinion that the chronicler tells his audience that in the monarchic heroic age, numbers were not able to save the people.
Yeah, it's always easy to rewrite the odds in retrospect, and we only had 500 against an overwhelming force. Oh, it was so noble.
All that matters is it's two stood against many.
Mm-hmm.
On verse 7, the titles given in this verse are of special interest. The king's son, in Hebrew Ben Hamelech, has an official role in other places, as we see in 1825, 22:11, and 1 Kings 22:26. And Ma'asiyah might have been Ahaz's son. The chief of the palace, in Hebrew Negid Habayit, doesn't appear elsewhere, but similar titles include the chief of the house of God, in Hebrew Negid Bet HaElohim, in 31:13, 35:8, 1 Chronicles 9:11, and Nehemiah 11:1. Levin writes that these officials oversaw the temple, though their exact function is unclear. The house could have referred to a palace rather than the temple. There's no evidence, however, for a second to the king, in Hebrew Mishneh HaMelech, being a role in Israel, although it is known from Persia, as we see in Esther 10:3, and possibly hinted at in Jonathan's words to David in 1 Samuel 23:17. Japhet writes that given the very specific titles used here, which are uncommon in Chronicles, these are, quote, authentic reflections of some unknown incident from Ahaz's times, unquote. Levin notes Klein's opinion that the story, quote, has the ring of authenticity, unquote, but to Naaman's opinion that the chronicler created all of these titles by adapting, quote-unquote, the designations found in pre-existing biblical texts, and thus does not consider them to be a sign of the text's historicity.
Oh, I swear to fuck every time I hear someone say that something has the ring of authenticity, all I hear is bullshit.
Yeah, it's historically plausible. Like, sure, okay, it's an option.
An option. and that's how scholars should talk. This is plausible. Could be this. Not, but it feels authentic to me. Like, what are you, a fucking hippie channeling South?
So a lot of the time it's based on like, okay, this is like this doesn't seem like something someone would make up.
Yeah, excuse me. There is nothing so stupid that someone wouldn't make it up. Have you looked at
I got you.
The brainworm people are South Park, Trump. There is the limit does not exist.
What does that little golem Ben Shapiro say? Facts don't care about your feelings. Maybe you should take a look and litmus test that. You know,
he doesn't know what facts are.
No, they don't. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Not to bring his name into blasphemers are blaspheming, but still,
his name is a blasphemy.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Similarly, I was at a discussion this morning with somebody that demanded or defied me to name a Christian who said that evolution was a definite fact. So I put up a list of 20 famous ones that are all trained scientists. And I said I would have included John Lennox in this list because he famously made a public statement about how he reconciled his faith with evolution. But then I listened to one of his lectures and realized he doesn't know what evolution is.
So you only included the people who actually knew what the fuck they were talking about and that were super famous.
Quietly remove this guy.
I think right. Ken Miller is probably always going to be the best example.
Yeah, Ken Miller's good. Francis Schaeffer.
I don't know that one.
Not Francis Schaeffer. Oh God, who?
Collins.
Collins. Thank you. Yes. The guy Hitchens loved to bring up. Literally evolutionary biologists, both of them. Like it's their job.
Yeah, did you know Francis Collins was Hitchens' doctor?
I knew he was looking at treatments for him at the end. I didn't know. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, let's continue.
Yeah. On verses 9 through 11, Dillard comments, quote, prophetic speeches are regularly the vehicles for the chronicler's theology of immediate retribution. Nothing more is known of the prophet Oved. The Lord was using Israel as an instrument to punish Judah, but the northerners had overstepped their bounds with excessive zeal for the task, zeal that now made them liable to divine anger. Compare the similar theme in Zechariah 1:15, Isaiah 10:15, and 42. Elmsley suggests that the chronicler was drawing a parallel with Elisha's. Are you okay?
I sent you to kill people, but you were too happy about it and enthusiastic, and now I'm pissed at you.
So, Elmsley suggests that the chronicler was drawing a parallel with Elisha's treatment of a captured Arabian army, as was seen in 2 Kings 6, 21 through 23. Benign treatment of the captives from Judah was all the more necessary, for the law forbade enslaving fellow Israelites, as we see in verse 10 in Leviticus 25, 39 through 55. The chronicler's positive attitude to the north is seen in his linking the citizens of the two kingdoms as brethren in verse 11. Even during the schism, Yahweh was their God in verse 10. On verse 12 through 15, Levin comments, quote, "Upon hearing Oded's message, 4 of the local leaders took the initiative and first ensured that the captives' physical needs were attended to, and then sent them to Jericho to be returned from there to Judah. Neither the defeated king of Judah nor the victorious king of Israel are mentioned as having had anything to do with this. But individual Good Samaritans, quote-unquote, as they are dubbed by Jarek, did exist among the northerners. As pointed out by Smelik, the account was obviously influenced by both 1 Kings 12, 21 through 24, in which the prophet Shemaiah ordered Rehoboam to stop his attack on Israel, and 2 Kings 6, 21 through 23, in which Elisha ordered the release of Aramean prisoners. Reini was of the opinion that the story was, quote, probably in the original of the chronicler of the kings of Judah, end quote, and that it was D.H. who, quote, was not interested in admitting Yahwistic tendencies among the prophets and other leaders of Israel, end quote. And speaking about Good Samaritan, so Blair A. French what's the name of the book again? Chronicles Through the Centuries. She notes that many commentaries suggest that this passage in Chronicles may have influenced the parable of the Good Samaritan in Luke 10, 29 through 37. So yeah, just wanted to note this.
Okay. I forgot to mute myself. Sorry about that, though.
Okay, so on 16 through 18, Dillard comments, quote, "The inciting incident in Ahaz's seeking the help of Tiglath-Pileser III was the attack of the Syro-Ephraimite coalition, according to 2 Kings 16:7. Here instead, it is attacks from the Edomites and Philistines. These two nations were natural allies against Judah and could have been seeking to forge overland trading routes free of Judean influence, linking the strategic Gulf trade through Elath with the coastal highway to the west. Uzziah had extended Judean control into the region, as we see in 26, 7, and 8. Pressure from the north, in verse 5, would have encountered opportunism on Judah's southern and western flanks. The attacks from Edom may have been incited by the Arameans to further the interests of the coalition against Judah or the Aram of 2 Kings 16:6. May have derived from misreading Edom. The cities captured by the Philistines, with the exception of Gimzo, were all along the Ayalon, Sorek, and Elah valleys in the buffer zone of the Shephelah between the two nations, or in the Negev, i.e. Arad. On verse 19, the theological notices are interrupted by a theological note, the message of it being that the dramatic decline in Judah's political and military situation during Ahaz's reign was due to his sins. Japhet, however, notes that from this chapter, it appears that the punishment was upon all Judah, not just Ahaz. She writes, therefore, that in the theological context of the chronicler, which separates between the king's fate and the people's fate, and determines a separate responsibility of the people for their fate, this statement is difficult. Indeed, to remove any doubt, the chronicler continues and describes that Ahaz's evil ways also latched onto Judah.
I mean, that is the way of it. When your ruler fucks up, the more power they have, the more everyone else suffers for their stupidity. But of course, it's never their stupidity. It's God is punishing them because they didn't give the priests enough money, or as one commenter pointed out, enough unsupervised access to people's children. So.
On 20 and 21, we have no record, neither in Kings nor in the Assyrian records, which tells us that Tiglath-Pileser III reached Jerusalem. Klein writes that the chronicler invented this story, which stems from his belief that Ahaz brought upon himself judgment because he sought help through an alliance, rather than through Yahweh. Levin suggested that the chronicler did not actually meant that Tiglath-Pileser came to Jerusalem in person, but rather a messenger bearing a demand for tribute. He notes that the key for and because at the beginning of verse 21 could mean either that Tiglath-Pileser's demands now were a result of Ahaz's earlier appeal to the Assyrians in verse 16, or that his present giving of loot to the Assyrian was of no avail to him.
So God judged him by having another more powerful king send him a strongly worded letter. The horror.
On verse 23, Dillard notes that since Ahaz was meeting Tiglath-Pileser III in Damascus, scholars have proposed that Ahaz's altar reflects Assyrian worship imposed on vassal kingdoms. However, Kogan and Mackay have shown that the Assyrians did not impose worship of their deities on vassal states. Instead, he writes that the apostasy under Ahaz reflects indigenous Canaanite cults. Whilst 2 Kings 16:10-16 speaks of Ahaz emulating an altar that has seen in Damascus, in Chronicles we find that he sacrificed to the gods of Damascus. Japhet writes that verse 23 is the chronicler's interpretation of 2 Kings 16:10-16, where he interpreted the new altar as idolatry.
It really is just like living with a narcissist. You never know what you're going to do that's going to be wrong today. But that wasn't wrong yesterday. Might have even been required the day before that.
Been there.
Done that.
Yep.
And finally, 24 and 25, Dillard comments, quote, "The same effort to liken the apostasy of Ahaz and Judah with that of Jeroboam and Israel is seen in these verses. Just as the northern kingdom had been without the true cult, Ahaz's closing the temple would deprive Judah of true worship, as we see in 13:8-12 and 29:6-8. The statement that Ahaz closed the temple contrasts to the report of the offerings he made there, according to 2 Kings 16:12-14. The chronicler's enhancements of Ahaz's apostasy, as we see in 28:22-25, are regarded by many as hyperbolic embellishments deduced by the chronicler from the king's account. Curtis and Madsen see the closing of the temple as an effort to protect its sanctity by moving Ahaz's idolatries outside its precincts. However, the controlling purpose in most of these changes seems rather to be the effort to show that under Ahaz, Judah had sunk to the same depths as Israel at the schism. And no ancient Christians.
Oh, well, that's a relief.
Well, there's that. Hard to get rid of. You spray, you bomb.
You set traps. You surrounded yourself with serpents.
Yeah, I mean, you already have
Getting
it.
in.
Oh, and that works too, by the way. This makes me really sad for my culture. I took one of my larger snakes, and we have this tree out front that I let the snakes climb on the tree because every part of the tree I can still reach them, and so. But they get the feeling that they're cruising around. So I put them up. I put this one big snake. I think it was my Crebo, 6.5 foot Crebo. I put up in this tree, and some kids come walking by as I'm standing there admiring my snake, letting her play around. And one of the girls comes up and says, "Oh, you have a snake." And all right. And so she points to her two friends. She says, "Look, there's a snake here." And these two girls go running across the street going, "Oh, Lord, oh, Holy Spirit." Oh, really?
I thought they were just going to freak out like, "Oh my God, it's a snake." And wow.
Yeah, run across the street because I have a pet,
Yeah.
who's being well behaved in a tree. But oh, Holy Spirit, and run away screaming.
Oh, those children.
For what religion does to children's minds.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah,
I have to fight with that every single day. It's not easy. It's shocking. But gosh,
So,
really?
moving on to the next one, 29.
Yes.
Okay.
You said I had to read that one, yes?
I didn't say you have to. You
No, you get to read this.
Hezekiah purifies the temple because I love whiny bitch ass men who burn everything down in a temper tantrum to appease their egos or their egotistic sky daddy.
You and I are gonna get along great.
Serenade us, Lilith. Serenade us. I'm looking forward to this.
Now, Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became king. Oh, look at the baby. Hello, little sweet noodle. He's so cute.
Yeah.
If you come
She's
to
a
the
bit
afterlife,
bitey.
feed you Hezekiah, okay? All right. Asshole. Now, he reigned in Jerusalem for 29 years. His mother's name was Abijah, daughter of Zechariah. He did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, just as his father David had done. In the first month of the first year of his reign, he opened the doors of the temple of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, assembled them in the square on the east side, and said, "Listen to me, Levites. Consecrate yourselves now and consecrate the temple of the Lord, the God of your fathers. Remove all defilement from the sanctuary. Our fathers were unfaithful, and they did evil in the eyes of the Lord our God and forsook him," because he didn't do a damn thing he ever promised, but never mind that. Shh. They turned their faces away from the Lord's dwelling place and turned their backs on him. And they also shut the doors of the portico and put out the lamps. And they did not burn incense or present any burnt offerings at the sanctuary to the God of Israel. Poor Diddums. Therefore, the anger of the Lord has fallen on Judah and Jerusalem, and he has punched a hole in the drywall and made them an object of dread and horror and scorn, as you can see with your own eyes. This is why our fathers have fallen by the sword, and why our sons and daughters and our wives are in captivity. Now I intend to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, so that his fierce anger will turn away from us. My sons, do not be negligent now, for the Lord has chosen you to stand before him and serve him, to minister before him, and to burn incense. Then these Levites set to work. From the Kohathites, Mahath, son of Amasai, and Yoel, son of Azariah. From the Merarites, Kish, son of Abdi, and Azariah, son of Jehalelel. From the Gershonites, Yoah, son of Zima, and Eden, son of Yoah. From the descendants, Evelizaphan, Shimri, and Yael. From the descendants of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattanai. From the descendants of Heman.
He-Man.
Dun, 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 dun.
And Shimei.
Shimei and his brother Coco Pop.
This is getting better every second.
I know. From the descendants of Yeduthan, Shemaiah, and Uzziel. And when they had assembled their brothers and consecrated themselves, they went in to purify the temple of the Lord, as the king had ordered, following the word of the Lord. And the priests went to the sanctuary of the Lord to purify it. And they brought out to the courtyard of the Lord's temple every unclean thing that they found in the temple of the Lord. And the Levites took it and carried it out to the Kidron Valley. And they began the consecration on the first day of the first month. And by the 8th day of the month, they reached the portico of the Lord. For 8 more days, they consecrated the temple of the Lord itself. finishing on the 16th day of the first month. Then they went in to King Hezekiah and reported, "We have purified the entire temple of the Lord, the altar of burnt offerings with all its utensils, and the table for setting out the consecrated bread with all its articles. And we have prepared and consecrated all the articles that King Ahaz removed in his unfaithfulness while he was king, and they are now in front of the Lord's altar." Early the next morning, King Hezekiah gathered the city officials together and went up to the temple of the Lord. They brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 male lambs, and 7 male goats as the sin offering for the kingdom, for the sanctuary, and for Judah. And the king commanded the priests, the descendants of Aaron, to offer these on the altar of the Lord. So they slaughtered the bulls, and the priests took the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Blood magic, everybody drink. Next, they slaughtered the rams and sprinkled their blood on the altar. Then they slaughtered the lambs and sprinkled their blood on the altar. And next Then the goats for the sin offering were brought before the king and the assembly, and they laid their hands on them. And the priests then slaughtered the goats and presented their blood on the altar for a sin offering to atone for all Israel, because the king had ordered the burnt offering and the sin offering for all Israel. And I'm just going to say, Dexter ain't got nothing on these guys. I mean, at least he put down a drop cloth. Anyway, how far do you want me to read, Tomer?
You can do all of it if you want.
Of course. He stationed the Levites in the temple of the Lord with cymbals, harps, and lyres in the way prescribed by David. And Gad, the king's seer, and Nathan, the prophet. This was commanded by the Lord through his prophets. So the Levites stood ready with David's instruments and the priests with their trumpets. And Hezekiah gave the order to sacrifice the burnt offering on the altar. As the offering began, singing to the Lord began also, accompanied by trumpets and the instrument of David, king of Israel. The whole assembly bowed in worship, while the singers sang and the trumpeters played. All this continued until the sacrifice of the burnt offerings was completed. When the offerings were finished, the king and everyone present with him knelt down and worshipped. King Hezekiah and his officials ordered the Levites to praise the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph, the seer. So they sang praises with gladness and bowed their heads and worshipped. And Hezekiah said, "You have now dedicated yourselves to the Lord. Come and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the temple of the Lord." So the assemblies brought sacrifices and thank offerings, and all whose hearts were willing brought burnt offerings. And the number of burnt offerings the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 male lambs, all of them for burnt offerings to the Lord. The animals consecrated as sacrifices amounted to 600 bulls and 3,000 sheep and goats. The priests, however, were too few to skin all the burnt offerings, so their kinsmen, the Levites, helped them until the task was finished, and until other priests had been consecrated. And in consecrating themselves, then the priests had been. There were burnt offerings in abundance, together with the fat of the fellowship offering and the drink offerings that accompanied the burnt offerings. So the service of the temple of the Lord was reestablished. Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced at what God had brought about for his people, because it was done so quickly. Cool story, bro.
Yeah. And then you have these offerings, and you have these other offerings, the burnt offerings, the high offerings, and then we have the dessert offerings, unless you want to. Never mind.
Tiramisu. Why does God never ask for tiramisu? I like barbecue as much as the next girl. But for fuck's sake.
Do we have the charcuterie offering?
Oh, God.
That is mine. God can get his own.
Oh,
yeah. It's admittedly, I hope, at least in theory, that these thousands of animals, aside from maybe the initial ones that they had to do magic with, would at least be fed to all the people coming to the celebration, because I'm not going through that much bullshit without at least a few shish kebabs.
I would imagine that would likely have been the case because of the value of them in the first place. Like, yeah, sure, you
Lawrence,
an offering, but at the same time,
yeah,
sorry.
Lawrence. Somebody commented to me that they put their trust in the New Testament because of the eyewitness testimony.
That's funny.
Yeah.
They should get a career in comedy.
Oh my God. I used to use that argument, the 500 eyewitnesses to the resurrection of Jesus, until I figured out where it came from. And then I just never used it again.
Right. Because it's the one guy saying that there are 500 witnesses.
Yeah. A possibly later inserted "trust me, brah," with absolutely no specifying detail is not, in fact, 500 eyewitnesses.
Here's my response to something like that usually. And sorry if you can hear the clock in the back. But so there was I'm forgetting his name right now. But there was a writer in ancient Greece who said that, and we still have his writings. He said that there was an island that he would go to where Achilles and Patroclus would appear, and they would hang out with the people staying on that island. And then he made it very specific. He was like, this was not a dream. They really appeared. So that is an eyewitness account, right? It was his own eyewitness account. And then he was like, oh, I know other people who this has also happened to. So please go ahead. No. If you want to take eyewitness accounts at their word, go right ahead. Do you believe that Patroclus and Achilles showed up to hang out with this guy on an island? Be my guest.
The funniest modern version of that, and Aaron, you may remember this, but I don't know if you know where it came from, is like in the 70s when, there were psychic phenomena were happening, but happening in a trendy way. But also there was all the, alien abduction stories and everything. Somebody pointed out that the evidence for alien abductions was as strong or stronger than any evidence for Jesus, seeing as you had so many eyewitness accounts and, corroborating tales with just that little idiosyncratic differences that have the ring of authenticity. So evangelical Christians decided that meant that the stories were all true. It was just demons. Aliens are demons. And that's why I wasn't allowed to watch E.T. growing up. Or, to really bring it home, Alf.
Hey, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I like cats. Oh, poor Alf. That's sad.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch Alf.
Oh.
Here's one of the things that bothers me about that whole the faith-based arguments. When I heard some preacher talking about around about 1989, something like that, they were saying that if you see a spectral manifestation of your dead mother or whatever, and somebody wants to bring you a message from the dead, and back then I still believed that there was a spiritual aspect, to life, because it was the 80s, and I was young. Okay, anyway. But this preacher saying that if you see a spectral manifestation, if your mother comes back, or you whatever comes, if somebody wants to come back and give you an important message, deny them, dismiss them, reject them, because they are a devil from hell.
Yep.
There's no way to know that even if there are souls, that even if there is a supernatural aspect to all of that, there is no way to know that what that preacher says is true, but he's asserting it as if it's absolutely true because he said so, and only because he said so.
Well, again, it's
because one of those rare people who gets a message from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
You now have to reject what your mother is trying to tell you because some asshole idiot who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about told you otherwise.
Yeah, well, they never. It's interesting because in all the explanations that they give, and they have many, most of them demonic, they never ever suggest the most obvious explanation, which is it's a fucking con. Gee, I wonder why they never want to raise that option in the minds of their
Too
followers.
obvious.
So before I forget, so I did just pull it up. So it was Maximus of Tyre in Dissertation 27, and I did remember it a little bit wrong. So on an island in the Pontus, or in the Mediterranean, there's a temple to Achilles. Quote, in this place, sailors often saw a young man with yellow hair leaping in golden armor. Some by no means saw him, but heard him singing the song of victory. Others both saw and heard him. He also says that Achilles will wake you up and go get a drink with him and Patroclus. But he notes that I indeed have neither seen Achilles nor Hector, but I have seen the Dioscuri, that's Castor and Pollux, in a ship, those splendid stars who directed the vessel through the storm. I have seen Asclepius, but not in a dream. I have seen Hercules, but when awake. So yeah, go ahead, be my guest. Eyewitness accounts, it's all great. No problems with those ever.
Outstanding. Thank you for that, Lawrence. All right, Tomer, we got any commentary?
Yeah. But before that, I think you missed some comments.
Well, there's a lot of activity going on that I don't need to read out. Let me go.
Minute 30.
In the side.
35, I think.
Okay, so we got
three
Eric,
above
86.
The three above the activity, Arn.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So when this chapter says altars for other gods, would you say the Bible admits that other gods exist? Well, God is somehow jealous of them. So there's that.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
if
this
you were
verse
God,
alone.
if you're the only God that ever existed, and somebody else is worshiping something else, can you be offended at that?
Good question. So the I mean, I arguably yes. But the this verse alone wouldn't do that. However, other verses in the Bible absolutely do point to that.
Yeah.
Psalm 82 and Deuteronomy 32, 8 through 9 are the best examples.
I mean, the Bible has always admitted that other gods were worshipped. It's just never entirely consistent on whether or not those other gods existed in some form, or whether they were subservient to God, or they should be subservient to God, or whether he was just a jealous little bitch.
And then Matt White says, now I want to see Aaron on stream reading Sharon's biography of Ozzy with Tomer providing commentary from Kerrang. Well, I can do a pretty good Ozzy. I cannot do Sharon. Which, by the way, this thing right here, this little girl that we just got, this Australian jungle carpet python, we were struggling for a name, and the only thing I could come up with,
you have the Bible.
the only thing I could come up with was Sheena of the jungle. That's I got nothing else. Right, I'm looking for something. I got nothing else. So my wife finds a male of these, and it's a good price. And she says we need to get this because it's already at about breeding size and all of that. And because of the timing, we can call it Ozzy, especially since it's Australian. It's Ozzy, so let's call it Ozzy. Like, okay, I could see that. And she says, but that would mean that this one must go from Sheena to Sharon.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'm kind of down with that, I think.
Yeah, I like the vibe.
All right, Tomer? Oh, wait, do I still have more? Yes. Let's see. And Ronaldo Martinez offers $1.99 and says, let's roast Hulk Hogan.
Let's not fuck that guy. Let me explain all the reasons he
Hold
sucks.
on. I want to be fair for a moment. Somebody pointed out to me, why are we hating on Hulk Hogan as much as we did when we completely give Ozzy a pass for all of the heinous shit that he did? And he did do some heinous shit. Yeah. Ozzy got to a point where he started recognizing what a dick he was. And I think that's important as far as redemption, that you realize what a fuckhead you are. One of his songs that he co-wrote with Lemmy was I Ain't No Nice Guy Anymore. You know, where Lemmy and Ozzy, well, actually Lemmy wrote the song, I think, for Ozzy, but where they realize where they used to think that they were wonderful and all that shit, they start reflecting on their life and realizing that I shouldn't have been like that. I've had moments like that too. That song resonated with me a lot because I looked back on my past self and realized what an ignorant dick I was. And I think that's important for redemption. And I believe in redemption.
Yeah. If you do
Honestly,
the work.
isn't that's the journey of life though, Aaron? You know, it's one of those things you have to think about. We always do stupid things or bad things when we're younger and realize when we're older that, wow, I could have done that a little bit better. You know?
Yeah, I'm just very fortunate that I have forgiving friends.
You're very lucky.
And a wife that does not put up with any of your bullshit.
Fortunately, my wife was not there for all that.
Yep. But now I've no doubt she's like,
she's amazing.
She's
my wife and I would not have been together for a minute if I was still the guy that I was in my 20s.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being an asshole in your 20s and then learning and growing and becoming better, and you were still an asshole, but you did the work to become a better person, or just selling out late in life to fucking diaper Donnie, dementia toddler Hitler.
See, that's one thing, but like there, oh my god, I could regale you guys with so many Hogan stories and how it's clear, you know, his entire career. It's like he was just in it for himself. He's just a narcissist. He wouldn't put people over.
I read what Andre the Giant said about him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I saw that.
Very punchable.
Andre the Giant says, I don't like to talk bad about people.
Oh, sure.
But I hate Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, he's like, I was caught.
Well, the thing is, like, from yes, we all like his racism is well known, but in 1986, Jesse Ventura tried to unionize the wrestlers, and then Hulk Hogan heard about it, and he went directly to Vince McMahon, and he was like, "You need to shut this down because it's threatening." He didn't say it's because it's threatening his pay, but it's because it was threatening his pay. So you know,
scab.
Yeah.
It was worse than a scab.
There was that whole debacle with Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 05, where they were supposed to have 3 matches, and now there was like, you know, they do like one person wins one match, another person wins another, and then the person who wins the bumper match wins the feud, and that was supposed to be Hogan, and Shawn Michaels was fine with that, but Hogan was like, "That ain't gonna work for me, brother. Let's just have one match, and I'm gonna win it." And that's what they did at SummerSlam, but it was really, really funny because Shawn Michaels is so goddamn good. He oversold everything. A simple punch sent Shawn Michaels flying over the top rope and doing a couple flips, and like he was making it look ridiculous. Like they were like, you know, you got to make Hulk Hogan look good, and he's like, I'll make Hulk Hogan look amazing. So he made him look so amazing to the point of like parody. So
he made him look fabulous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's the best case of malicious compliance, but it was a battle of the egos. And I could do more and more, but I'm just gonna leave it at that one. He was not a shit guy. Yeah.
Hey, we got Isaac back.
Hey, welcome back, Isaac.
I'm back.
Which airport was it, by the way?
Heathrow, but I didn't go all the way to the.
Yeah, which train station was it? I'm just curious.
No, it was like a local. It's called Haggerston.
Okay, I don't think I've been to that one.
No, it's like a
Haggestown?
like...
Seriously?
Haggerston.
Right, which would be Haggestown. They named your village after sheep's,
you know better.
Sheep's stomach filled with meat and barley.
No, it's not haggis. It's Hagar. Like
Haga.
Like
Hagar.
Haggars. Like
Hagar's town.
Maybe. Yeah, it's probably like Anglo-Saxon, like named after a guy called like
named Hagar.
Hagar. Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Which remind me,
Are you
I
sure he's
also
not
had
from
a
the
dog
West
named
Country?
Snert.
Hagershun.
I had a
Well,
dog named
here now.
Snert and a duck named Kvak.
That's pretty good.
Oh.
Anyway, Tomer, are you going to quit holding up the show?
Ah,
Maybe.
he just can't help himself.
I'm starting to have too much fun here.
I guess. Okay, so we'll start at verse 1. Hezekiah was 25 years old when he became king. Since Ahaz became king at age 20, as we see in 28:1, and died at age 36, this means that Ahaz was 11 years old when Hezekiah was born, which makes Ahaz the youngest father in the Bible.
11.
So, yes.
Wait, but
So-
wasn't there like 2 chapters ago where he was younger than his?
No, he wasn't born yet.
We thought maybe it was a mistake. He was actually like ended up being younger than
Well-
his son.
Well, in the Masoretic text at least. It's
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So, Peshitta and one Hebrew manuscript, specifically Parma 3234, circa 13th century CE, amend the text of 28:1 to read 25 instead of 20, and thus easing the problem. Others suggest that this is, quote, one more example of the difficulties with the chronological notices in the Masoretic text, end quote, according to Dillard. Levin notes Etz's opinion that Hezekiah was Ahaz's younger brother rather than his son. His suggestion, however, has not met with widespread support.
I mean, it would also go against the previous chapter that ended with his son Hezekiah succeeded him, but okay.
I also like that no traditional commentator has anything to say about this. Like, they haven't even noticed that this was an issue, probably.
Yeah. 11-year-olds can have children.
Maybe there is a comment by by Miyuchas, maybe, but not really, I guess. Okay. So on verse 3, the first month of the first year of his reign. Levin notes that Kogan compares the chronicler's claim here to the, quote, Shanat Resh Sharuti, end quote, or first year of reign in Assyrian royal inscriptions, specifically those of Esarhaddon dealing with his actions in Babylon. He takes it as, quote, a pseudo-date, simply the chronicler's way of saying the pious Hezekiah concerned himself with temple affairs from his very first day on the throne, end quote. According to Ezekiel 45:18-20, the purification happened in Nisan, the first month. Japhet writes that the chronicler deliberately changed the dating to emphasize Hezekiah's adherence to the purification, which he began immediately at his ascension. On verse 5, Levites. Hezekiah's speech of verses 5-11, which probably is from the chronicler himself given its chronistic style, is addressed to the Levites, quote-unquote, which is used here in its broadest meaning, referring to both the entire tribe of Levi, which included the priests, and to the Levitical class. Klein notes Rudolph's opinion that the use of the term Levites here is the chronicler's attempt to highlight the Levites. On verse 7, Japhet comments, quote, the descriptions of the temple's closure during Ahaz's days and its reopening, purification, and the renewal of Yahweh's worship during Hezekiah's days do not represent historical facts. All of them are the work of the chronicler, and their origin stems from his view of the worship's history. According to D.H., the situation described here is impossible. None of the Judean kings, not even Manasseh, who is described there as the most sinful king, is accused of such an extreme deed. For the Second Temple period, although our information is very scant, the possibility of a total cancellation of the temple service, initiated by the people themselves or their leaders, seems even less likely. There may have been a cessation of the temple service during the period when the temple lay in ruins, but this is not quite certain in view of Jeremiah 41:5. This is certainly not the case of literally shutting the doors. Rather, the description reflects the chronicler's view of the vicissitudes of the Lord's worship, which diverges considerably from that of D.H. Its leading principle is that of the mutual exclusivity of idolatry and the worship of the Lord, and entails the complete cancellation of the one during the prevalence of the other. On verse 8, he has made them an object of dread and horror and scorn. The vocabulary of this phrase is very reminiscent of the threat of Babylonian exile in Jeremiah 29:18. Quote, I will make them an object of horror, zva'ah, to all the kingdom of the earth, and to all the kingdom of the earth, an object of curse in Hebrew Allah, of astonishment, shama, and of hissing, sheraka. End quote. Klein writes that the description does not fit the era of Hezekiah, at least before the invasion of Sennacherib, but may be more appropriate to the era of the chronicler. On verse 10, Japhet comments, quote, oh, so, Lily, do you want to say something?
Oh, yeah, actually, I was going to comment on verse 10 where it says, I intend to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, even though this is Judah. And at least historically, this would have been before the United Kingdom myth was quite so prevalent.
I think this is mainly like the chronicler's style, because he likes to refer to Israel as he likes to refer to Judah as Israel. So you see that he says when they talking to the people of Judah, he says the people of Israel. So it's basically his like view that like Judah is Israel, I believe, or like the
or the true heritors of Israel and Israel's promise and all of that. Yeah, it's just his language is indicative of that United Kingdom and tribes myth, and that's also indicative of potentially when it was written. So
yeah, I mean, you could say that maybe he's just using the word Israel as both like just for the northern kingdom, that's the kingdom of Israel, but the land of Israel, the people of Israel, still was this sort of general term. But you do have weird things like where he uses the word Israel. He'll say something like Ahaz, king of Israel. So, like what you were saying, where he's literally calling Judah the actual sub kingdom Israel itself. It's not like it's part of Israel. It itself is Israel, which is weird.
It does make things confusing and could lead to some of the confusion between which king belongs where in some of these narratives.
Yeah, there are kings with similar names at the same time, which is interesting. But although they are attested to, so it's maybe some of them, like family names or something when they were intermarrying. Yeah.
Oh, they were getting Habsburgian. There we go.
Well, I mean, like when you had like a king from one.
I know
the two royal families marrying each other, so they ended up where like they had cousins that were kings on different sides, and they were like had similar names, or their son was the same name as the other king, stuff like that. Because you have like there's a few names that are similar.
Quite a few.
Exactly what they were. Yeah.
But I want to hear what you had to say, Tamer, about verse 10.
Yes. So on verse 10, Japhet comments, quote, having laid the groundwork for his action with his theological interpretation of history, Hezekiah's conclusion is self-evident. He decides to reverse the unfolding process by causing the Lord's anger to turn away, quote unquote. This change of orientation the chronicler describes as lichrot brit Yehovah. Although it includes the term brit, covenant, no true covenant making is intended, and no facile comparison with the time of Josiah should be made. Hezekiah speaks of his wish, it is in my heart to make a covenant, but there is no allusion to a ceremony of covenant making among the many acts ascribed to him. The linguistic usage is also unusual. The use of karat with the prepositional la, which originally indicated a position of superiority, the superior making a covenant to the inferior, would yield an impossible sense in this context, as if Hezekiah were making a covenant to the Lord. The whole idiom, then, should be interpreted as an expression of absolute loyalty, of making a complete commitment. Compare Ezra 10:3. On verses 15 through 17, Levin comments, quote, After purifying themselves, the clan leaders and their brethren went on to begin purifying the temple, with only the priests actually going inside the building, bringing all of the impurity out of the Levites, who dumped it in the Kidron Valley, which lies to the east of the city and of the Temple Mount. Beginning on the first of the first month with the courtyard, they only began to purify the ulam, the vestibule or entrance structure, on the 8th, completing the sanctification on the 16th. The specific reason for the purification taking 16 days is not clear. Klein points out that the fact that 16 years of filth of Ahaz's reign is wiped out in 16 days. Japhet sees the tradition of 8 days of purification of each part of the temple complex as leading from Solomon in 7:9 to the Hasmoneans in 2 Maccabees 2:12, although there the 8 days refer to the Festival of Tabernacles in the 7th month. In any case, the purification of the temple was only completed on the 16th of the month, which serves as an explanation, perhaps one of several, for the postponement of the Passover. End quote. And Pseudo-Rashi writes that they prolonged the cleansing because Ahaz had painted all the walls with images, as written in Ezekiel 23:14, quote, images of Chaldeans engraved with types of drawings, end quote, and they prolonged it for 8 days until they destroyed the likeness of the images from the walls.
God does hate art, apparently.
Yeah.
It's a shame there's so much art in his honor.
Mm.
That
Gotta
was
cut
really
that
good
out.
to go.
And Christians sometimes destroy it.
Is that
Yeah,
why they
that's
always
true.
sacrifice goats?
Yes.
Mm.
Making sense now.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, the puns. That's I feel dirty now.
Yeah.
As you
It
should.
seems sometimes you'll see like sometimes Muslim extremists will destroy like idols' faces and stuff like that because you're not supposed to have depictions of humans' faces. And for some reason, Christians instead seem to deface other parts of the body.
I love how the British say Christians. Because we don't, which it's Christians. But
Christians.
you make them sound like they're worshiping Christy.
I like the fact that when Isaac tried to repeat what you said, he just said what he usually says.
Do I say Christian or Christians?
Yes. Christy, you said twice. Said the same way.
Christian.
You only slightly exaggerated the first one. The distinction in the enunciation.
It's like the
shun.
So the French, yeah, shun. Like
Say
the
shun.
CH of the
Say
French.
shun.
Yeah, shun.
Yep.
Like
Shun?
SHUN. Yes, Americans say shun because we are.
Christian.
Don't change it because you're in England. So they.
Oh, I see. You're saying Christian. I thought you were just saying instead of Ian, you were saying yen, like with a Y sound.
That's part of it.
Christian.
Yeah.
But you're saying
It's-
Christian.
It's very.
Yes.
It was very funny hearing you repeat the same thing
You
twice.
can also go
Maybe-
go full.
Maybe
You can
that's
also
correct,
go.
and I'm just the weirdo.
You can also go
No, I mean-
Japanese and say
No.
Kirishitan.
No, you're right.
No. The thing is, Isaac's pronunciation is definitely right, but Americans.
Now we're going to talk about
just-
pronunciations.
No, because there are a lot of words in English that have like the TI becomes a sh sound. So I never
Don't
thought-
try to justify it. You people say you say aluminium.
We also spell it that way,
Aluminium,
so it's a bit
yeah.
different.
That's the only time I actually side with American pronunciation because aluminum was the original and the aluminium was the change to make it align with another element. So
Yeah, a lot of elements end in like em, but then there are other elements that don't, like platinum. So
Can we just move on? Are we moving on
Yes.
to Second Chronicles 30?
Aaron,
What?
finished
He hasn't
commentary,
finished.
haven't I?
I haven't finished my commentary yet. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so on 21, Levin notes that the choice of animals seems to be dependent on the narrative of the dedication of the tabernacle in number 7, in which the leader of the 12 tribes brought 1 bull, 1 ram, and 1-year-old lamb for the olah, and 1 male goat for the chata'at, as well as another 2 bulls, 5 rams, 5 he-goats, and 5 lambs for the shelamim, the peace offering. This list of animals appears also in the consecration of the second temple, as we see in Ezra 6:17 and Nehemiah 8:35. The chata'at, or sin offering, is offered for, quote, the monarchy and for the sanctuary and for Judah, end quote. Klein writes that monarchy, mamlacha, may refer to the government or to the royal house. He notes that Rudolph favors the royal house since Judah is mentioned later in the sentence.
And there was no mention of a partridge.
Nor a pear tree.
Nor of snakes. So in verse 24, to atone for all Israel. The reference to Israel here could refer to Judah, according to Rudolph, but Williamson suggested that all Israel refers both to Judah and to the former northern kingdom, after the latter's fall to the Assyrians. Klein writes that, in a sense, this is a correction of verse 21, where the purification sacrifice was only for Judah. This inclusive view of Israel, he writes, is typical of the chronicler's work. Levin notes Milgram's opinion that the sacrifice were originally intended to be offered for each of the three beneficiaries, the royal house, the sanctuary, and the people of Judah, making a total of 84 animals. This number, which is 7, the number of perfection, times 12, the number of tribes, unveils, quote, the motive behind Hezekiah's change of mind. The rededicated temple would henceforth serve all Israel and embrace the inhabitants of northern Israel as well.
And it did after Israel was destroyed or, well, conquered. Many Israelites ended up going south to Judah and taking refuge there, being refugees, incidentally.
Okay, on 25, Gad the king's seer and Nathan the prophet. Their reference here is somewhat surprising, given that neither of them is associated with the Levites or the temple musicians. Levin notes Williamson's opinion that this is a note by the chronicler, who was, quote, anxious to stress that these arrangements followed a word of commandment from the Lord, and for his readers, this would be accepted as most authoritative if it was understood as having been mediated through his prophets, end quote. Japhet writes that according to the chronicler, prophets after Moses also delivered commandments to the people, and, quote, even within the sacred realm of cult there was room for change, indicated by the Lord's continuing inspiration through the prophets. On verse 30, Dillard writes that the chronicler portrays the Levitical musicians as having a prophetic role, as was in 2014, 34:12 and 13, and 35:15. He writes that this is probably best understood as evidence of the decline of the prophetic order in his own day, so that the prophetic function or authority was associated with the Levitical musicians. He writes, quote, the chronicler is in effect legitimating an attitude to the Levitical musicians that was current in his time.
Yeah, there's a lot of this stuff that involves normalizing what is current in the time of the writer by attributing it to a previous era. We've noticed that all throughout the Bible. But in this case, I think there has always been in this some connection between prophecy and poetry and music and art and things. May have been one of the few ways they could express themselves. Who's got family over?
Not me.
Not me. My family know better.
Yep, my family rejected me.
I think my neighbor is having a garden party. Sorry.
Ah.
Oh,
Sounds
well,
great.
I'll be right over.
Riotous British people, very
We'll
disruptive.
bring the sparrows.
Mm.
There we go.
And finally, on 34, Japhet comments, quote, this verse, with its unequivocal praise of the Levites at the expense of the priests, plays a prominent role in many commentaries on Chronicles, as well as in the history of Chronicles research. It serves as the ultimate proof of the chronicler's negative view of the priesthood, and his clear favoritism of the Levites. In the immediate context, however, it underlines the unexpectedness of the events, for the thing came about suddenly in verse 36. What had been planned as a limited ritual for the temple dedication became a popular event of a grand scale, and the clergy that had been designated in advance to officiate could not cope adequately with these new dimensions. The priests were too few. In this unexpected emergency, two measures were undertaken: the addition of more priests, who had to prepare themselves for the task, and the employment of non-priests for some of the chores urgently needed. The second measure, deriving from the exigencies of the situation, is significant for the matter of the personnel of the temple cult in its broader context. It provides an explicit legitimation for the penetration of non-priests into spheres of the cult which had previously been the exclusive charge of the priests. It is presented, however, as an ad hoc measure of temporary application, quote, until the work was finished and until other priests had sanctified themselves, quote.
Right. So it gives a, if we really need to, the Levites can step in and help. Justification. And then, yeah, you can always find an excuse for why you need to.
Yeah, I have no ancient Christians as well. I mean, there are some from chapters 29 through 32, but it's not really like, hey, look, Jesus. No, it's just
they're probably just talking about the importance of re-sanctifying yourself to God and blah, 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 and vows and the new covenant and the old covenant and blah, 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 Jesus.
Not really. It's just that it's just observations, I guess.
All right, so are we moving on to 30?
Please.
Hezekiah sent word to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover to the Lord of the God of Israel. For the king and his officials and all the assembly in Jerusalem had taken counsel to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at its proper time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves in sufficient number, nor had the people assembled in Jerusalem. The plan seemed right to the king and all the assembly. So they decreed to make a proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba to Dan, that the people should come and keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel, and at Jerusalem, for they had not kept it in great numbers as prescribed. So couriers went throughout all Israel and Judah with letters from the king and his officials, as the king had commanded, saying, O people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, so that he may turn again to the remnant of you that have escaped from the hands of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your ancestors and your kindred, who were faithless to the Lord of their ancestors, so that he made them a desolation, as you see. Do not now be stiff-necked, as your ancestors were, but yield yourselves to the Lord, and come to his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, and serve the Lord your God, so that his fierce anger may turn away from you.
Hey, don't tell me I can't be naked.
Seriously, but I've just given up trying to take this seriously. I'm sorry. It's all so stupid.
Don't tell me I can't be naked.
For as you return to the Lord, your kindred and your children will find compassion in their captors. We know what that means, don't we, Epstein? And return to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. Buy into the delusion, and it will work for you. So the couriers went from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh as far as Zebulun, and they laughed them to scorn and mocked them, just like I do right now. Only a few from Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. The hand of God was also on Judah to give them one heart to do what the king and the officials commanded by the word of the Lord. Many people came together in Jerusalem to keep the festival of the unleavened bread in the 2nd month, a very large assembly. They set to work and removed all the altars that were in Jerusalem and all the altars that were offering incense. They took away and threw into the Wadi Kidron. That's my new name for my toilet. They slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the 2nd month. The priests and the Levites were ashamed, and they sanctified themselves and brought burnt offerings into the houses of the Lord. They took their accustomed posts according to the law of Moses, the man of God. The priests dashed the blood that they had received from the they dashed the blood that they had received from the hands of the Levites. For there were many in the assembly who had not sanctified themselves. Therefore, the Levites had to slaughter the Passover lamb for everyone who was not clean, to make it holy to the Lord. For a multitude of the people, many of them from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves. Yet they ate the Passover contrary to what was prescribed. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, May the good Lord pardon all who set their hearts to seek God, the Lord, the God of their ancestors, even though not in accordance with the sanctuary's rules of cleanliness. The Lord heard Hezekiah and healed the people. The people of Israel who were present at Jerusalem kept the festival of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness. And the Levites and the priests praised the Lord day by day, accompanied by loud instruments for the Lord. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all Levites who showed good skill in the service of the Lord. So the people ate the food of the festival for 7 days, sacrificing offerings of well-being and giving thanks to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. Then the whole assembly agreed together to keep the festival for another 7 days. So they kept it for another 7 days with gladness. For King Hezekiah of Judah gave the assembly 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep for offerings. And the officials gave the assembly 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep and 10,000 sheep. The priests sanctified themselves in great numbers. Numbers like nobody's ever seen. The whole assembly of Judah, the priests and the Levites, and the whole assembly that came out of Israel, and the resident aliens who came out of the land of Israel, and the resident aliens who lived in Judah rejoiced. Yay! There was great joy in Jerusalem. For since the time of Solomon, son of King David of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. Then the priests and the Levites stood up and blessed the people, and their voice was heard. Their prayer came to his holy dwelling in heaven.
The word of the
What
Lord.
absolute shit!
You know what I love best? If you're unclean when you come to the party, the priest can just throw blood on you, and that'll fix it.
Last time I
mean,
checked,
we've
that would
already-
make you
we-
dirty.
I mean, we've already seen this kind of right.
Was that what it
Leviticus.
meant in this
Yeah.
chapter?
Well, I
Yeah,
didn't
is
know
a-
what
they
Homer
came
was
in,
saying.
they
I'm sorry,
weren't
Isaac.
sanctified, so they had to throw blood around because not all the people were sanctified.
Yeah, hold on, Tomer, what did you say?
We've already seen that kind of ritual in Leviticus, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so there is a
right?
specific ritual to do with like
Yeah.
the red heifer that
Yes.
you know that blood is used for
Not just the red
purifying. But I
heifer.
think in this case it's saying that the Levites did the sacrificing and sprinkling of the blood and everything for the people were unclean and so couldn't do it themselves. Because technically a Passover sacrifice is something you can do by yourself. You don't need to go to the temple to do it. Anyone can sacrifice and their own Passover sacrifice. But in this case, so many of them were unclean that the Levites did it for them. But then it says, but then the next verse is like, oh, but then they got like a plague or something because they shouldn't have done it.
Well, and it was in the law a way to cleanse people of certain illnesses to sprinkle them with the blood of their
Yeah, but I don't think it
sacrifices.
meant that they were being sprinkled. I don't think they were sprinkling the blood on the people.
Hold
They
on,
were
wasn't
sprinkling the
The
blood.
way it says it there, that's how.
Yeah. They were
reads to
sprinkled the
me.
blood for the people because the people couldn't do it themselves. But sprinkling the blood is part of
I
a.
don't know. I
Oh,
mean, it's
sacrifice.
possible some older ones did that.
Wasn't there something in I think it was in Numbers where there was a plague that came over the people, and it seemed, I think it was in Numbers. I could be wrong, but there was I remember we talked about this for quite a bit, that there was just some random plague, and I think that it was like it had like a couple verses that talked about it, and then it just kind of passed over it. But I think it was in Numbers. I could be wrong as to where it was. but I did want to note, like, yeah, obviously we're talking about the Passover, so we're gonna get references to Moses and stuff. But there's quite a lot of parallels, right? Because they even use the phrase stiff-necked to describe the people.
Yes.
They got, what else was there? The people coming out, or the people that have escaped from the hands of the kings of Assyria,
Yeah.
instead of Egypt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This the stiff necked. I don't know. Fuck English.
it
Do-
is
Maybe
neck,
it's
but
naked.
naked is funnier.
Yes, because
Yeah.
that's how it looks, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to say that like naked, right? Because there's an e
If I get
between the K
naked,
and
will someone
D, right?
massage my
So
stiff
it's
neck?
naked.
Yes.
I know a guy. I know a guy
Okay,
that
naked.
invented a religion back in the
So-
late '80s. He invented a religion, the Church of Bob, and they worship J.R. Bob Dobbs. But it's the Church of the Subgenius. It's an incredibly funny religion. All of their religious materials are hilarious as fuck. And one of their first priests was Reverend Buck Naked.
Oh, though it should
What?
it should be noted, however, that in the Septuagint, at least in Vaticanus, it has heart instead of neck, cardias. And Levin notes Allen's opinion that this may have been that the Septuagint may have been influenced by Psalms 94:8. Do not harden your hearts. But he notes that other recensions of the Greek has trachelos, I guess, necks or throats. Yeah. So. But yeah, the stiff necked does appear in Deuteronomy quite often in 9 verses 6 and 13, and 10:16 and 31:27.
Oh, would it be Trachelos?
Trachos, yes.
Does it have like a thing that looks like an X in the middle there?
Yeah, it's chi. It's a chi. Yeah, chi.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, that's where we get the word trachea from.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thought.
Okay, so I'll start with verse 1. This verse is generally taken as a summary of the following verses, with Israel and Manasseh and Ephraim understood as parallels. Klein notes that the chronicler presupposes that Hezekiah came to power after the fall of the northern kingdom, as we see in verses 6 and 9, despite what is said in 2 Kings 18, 9 and 10, which states that Hezekiah's 4th year was the 7th year of Hoshea and was the 6th year of Hezekiah when the northern kingdom fell to the Assyrians. Japhet writes that the chronicler was carried away by his wish to attribute all the aspects of Hezekiah's religious reform to the first king's year, exceeding the evidence of his sources. The reference to letters, in Hebrew igrot, is usually taken as an anachronism, referring to a customary royal communication practice in the Persian period, as we see in 36:22, aka Ezra 1:1, Esther 1:22, 3:8, 3:13, and 8:8 through 10.
So the chronicler is a fanboy who stands Hezekiah so hard.
Yep, like kind of like Josiah, I guess, but like yeah, Hezekiah. But you see, the Hezekiah's account is in Chronicles is more detailed than in Kings. So yeah, he takes. I think he values Hezekiah probably more than Josiah, but I can't really say for sure.
In the way that Solomon was supposedly greater than David in matters of, the wealth of the kingdom and the rule, but David is still remembered.
Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Okay. Just say something because I think my my earphones died.
Hello.
Okay,
Well-
no, they haven't. They haven't.
Okay.
Well, we already know how the Christian commentary is going to be.
Oh, look,
I don't-
Jesus.
I got a feeling.
I mean, I probably French has something about Hezekiah in general, about what Christians say. They do claim that Hezekiah is not. Emmanuel was another name for Hezekiah, the Emmanuel of Ezra. Not Ezra, of Isaiah. So.
Yeah, that is. I'm not sure how accepted that is now, but I do know that for a while some people did accept that.
Sorry, it wasn't Christians. It was Joseph Kimchi started it first, and then I think
Right. The idea is that the baby that was promised was Hezekiah in in Isaiah. The young woman will give birth.
And
it was
before
You'll
he's
call his name Emmanuel.
yeah.
But that was
I
that
mean-
was that in the court of Ahaz? I don't remember it being Ahaz, the king at the time.
No. I mean, he wasn't, but he does appear in Isaiah. Like he's mentioned, like there.
Right, but I'm saying, because it's to be like Ahaz's
mother.
I thought Christians were more uncomfortable with the fact that that verse would not originally have been attributed to a prophecy regarding Jesus.
Oh, though it is interesting. It is interesting to know that David Daube argues that the biblical portrait of Hezekiah helped shape the presentation of Jesus in the New Testament, according to French.
Interesting.
Yeah,
she
writes that
Moses.
Yeah, she writes that most of his evidence derives from Chronicles. Citing early Christian and rabbinic sources, Daube maintains that Hezekiah had the status of Messiah among 1st century CE Jews. In a bid to assert Jesus' own messianic bona fides, the gospel authors ascribe to him the same deeds that set Hezekiah apart. Many of the acts Daube identifies are those that Hezekiah performs only in Chronicles, cleansing the temple, holding a Passover feast, and healing others. Lastly, Daube conjectures that Jesus' cry on the cross corresponds to Chronicles' notice that God forsook Hezekiah in order to test him in 32:31.
This is why I've never been able to fully reject mythicism, although I know there's been many sort of ridiculous perspectives attributed in mythicism, but I've never been able to fully reject it because Jesus is such an obvious, contrived patchwork based on folding in old ideas and meeting ideological needs of whoever the hell was writing at the moment, that I don't think it's possible to find an authentic core. There might be one, but fuck if I know what it would be. And there's no way you could actually tell. You would just decide based on your own preferences and prejudices, which, you know, if you want to do that privately, that's your business, but don't call it scholarship.
I think the fact, like, so, you know, other prophets that were running around at the time in the 1st century, they also were given like stories that called back to Moses and to you know a whole bunch of other Old Testament figures. So like it's people, a lot of the times people trying to replicate what their great ancestral heroes have done. Like, I mean, yeah, obviously the Jesus stuff is filled to the brim with myth and just like shoving in like, yeah, here's a random prophecy and here's a quotation from a book, except I actually got the quotation wrong, it's from another book. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff, but I think once you cut down past like the stuff that is very obviously mythical, you're just left with a core of like, this was a dude that was executed.
I've actually thought about it in a different way in my studies as well. To kind of go with what you guys are saying with this, it was always fascinating whenever I noticed that there were so many different similarities to other people who were, as you said, street preachers of sorts. And they all had little bits and pieces of their own stories, where I believe that all those stories were collected by people who had heard them through word of mouth many, many years after these happened. Because we know that the Romans were very famous about executing people like this on a whim all the time. It's just like, oh, you're causing problems. All right, I'm going to string you up here. You know, the outcry for it and everything else that could have been written in there as an extra little bit of fluff to make it seem even more sensational. And so what I've always seen is that I don't think there was one dude per se, but there may have been a dude or dudes who were killed in this way who may have said things like this, with other people doing other things. And then all these stories like, well, I heard about this one guy, let's make this dude this way. And so we kind of collaborate together into one story, which now we call the story of Jesus of Nazareth.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And like the son of, or what is it? Jesus, son of Ananias, or I can never remember how to pronounce the name. The one in 70, in the fall of Jerusalem, the crazy guy who was like silent while he was flayed. You know, what does that remind a Christian of? As a sheep before shearers, he opened not his mouth. It's totally that kind of thing where you do have a real incident. involving a guy named Jesus, which was apparently a very common name at the time, and one that a lot of prophets would, because prophets and priests might take a name the same way as a king would. Yeah, that's, again, it's pretty easy to just throw all that in a blender and end up with, especially when you have
not even that.
disparate.
Not even that. Like as you
people.
said about the Jesus being a common name, perhaps this one dude named Jesus had this, and then this other dude named Jesus did these other things, and that's how it got all confused. Like, oh, I heard this one guy Jesus did this, and then then you just kind of blew them together.
Are we reading Chronicles?
Sorry about that. Yeah, I guess we're waiting for
for Tomer's commentary.
Yeah, is your commentary time now?
Yes, I started it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, we were adding to it because it was interesting.
Of course, you were glossing it, if you could say that. Okay. Okay.
The shade.
Polishing it to a fine sheen, Tomer. That's what I do.
I mean, yeah. Okay, on verse 2. On verse 2, celebrate the Passover in the second month. This note is surprising given that in biblical legislation, the Passover is celebrated on the 14th day of the first month, as we see in Exodus 12, 2-6, Leviticus 23, 5, Numbers 9, 2 and 3, and 28, 16. The chronicler explains that the postponement occurred because not enough priests had sanctified themselves, nor had the people assembled in Jerusalem, in verse 3. Klein writes that such conditions were linked to the temple not being fully sanctified until the 16th day of the month. He notes that scholars have frequently pointed to the law in Numbers 9, 6-13, which states that the Passover may be delayed until the second month. If a person is unclean by contact with a corpse, or that he had been on journey during Passover. These laws, however, are not explicitly stated here. According to Shmayahu Talmon, Hezekiah adopted the northern kingdom's calendar and invited the northerners to a Passover celebration in the second month. This theory, however, is not widely accepted, mainly due to lack of evidence, and the chronicler's favor of the southern kingdom. Japhet suggested that an emergency situation, like a military campaign, required the delay, but Klein takes it as pure guesswork. He notes Judson R. Shaver's opinion that the chronicler found room to interpret for his own day the spirit of Numbers 9, 6-11. Likewise, Michael Fishbane observed that the ruling in Numbers applied both to the time of the wilderness and in your future generations. In both Numbers and 2 Chronicles 30, the inability to keep Passover at the proper time involved impurity and distance, either on a journey in Numbers or not yet assembled in Jerusalem in verse 3. Thus, Fishbane finds an analogical relationship, quote-unquote, between the two texts. Klein concludes, quote, in Chronicles, an exegetical shift is made from certain individuals who were unclean to the priests as a whole being insufficiently purified and the people as a whole not being gathered in Jerusalem.
Well, if their purifying involved potentially rebuilding certain doors and repairing things. Yeah.
Damn it, Snake spilled my beer.
Hi, friendo.
Your commander would be very upset. We do not waste beer.
Yeah.
On
So
verse
as I said,
5,
she just needs a little bit more handling.
Wow.
oh, actually, I saw a comment. So.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. My unfinished sock offers $2.22. It says, "Hail Aaron and Co. and hail Tomer's commentary."
Thanks.
Huzzah.
Thank you for that.
Okay.
It's dangerous.
On verse 5, it had not been celebrated in large numbers according to what was written. The Masoretic text reads, Ki lo larov asu katuv, literally, because not many or most have done as is written. The word larov is frequently used by the chronicler, indicating many times or often, according to Japhet and Klein. Thus, the use of the word here implies that the Passover has not been performed in the prescribed manner, i.e. not in Jerusalem or not on the correct date, according to most traditionals and Levin. Most early translations read larov as multitude or many, referring to many of the Israelites who have not performed the Passover, a reading favored by many English translations. Though Klein notes that centralization, rather than crowd size, seems to be the main issue in the chapter. Peshitta reads, "For their riches were very great for him," possibly a misreading of the verse. Targum combines both interpretations, quote, "because the greater part of the assembly had not kept the Sabbath in Nisan at its proper time." On verse 6 through...
Just looking at Aaron, he's having some problems.
Yeah, I see.
Someone doesn't want to be on camera.
It's like, no, I don't want to be on there.
Yeah, she's just like I said. She's never been socialized. Needs to be handled a little bit to get her to calm down. But
It's all right, princess.
I'm taking her out to there's a bar close to downtown that is okay with snakes. They even let me bring snakes inside and let them crawl around. So I'm taking her down there.
Oh God.
See, this is the kind of Texas shit that you would never see in Milwaukee.
I bet Isaac knows many such bars that allow snakes to be there.
We don't have open carry, but yeah.
I think that was
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I have a gay computer. So on verses 6 through 9.
What?
I'm not homophobic. My computer is gay.
I don't even know how that works. How is my computer gay?
Because it
can't be racist. Look at my African American.
And
because it has rainbows emitted everywhere. Right?
Okay,
so
I thought you had an incel chip computer.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, we are on fire today. This is amazing.
I mean, I have an Intel chip, and I'm very happy. No. I used to have an Intel chip, and I'm very happy I don't have it anymore. Yeah, that's it. I have an M2.
Okay, on verses 6 through 9, Levin comments, quote, "The text of the letter quoted in verses 6b through 9 is obviously a composition of the chronicler in what Japhet calls elevated prose style. While verse 6a says that the runners went throughout all Israel and Judah, the letter is obviously aimed at the inhabitants of the north. They are addressed as sons of Israel and encouraged to return to the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, all evoking images of the Exodus, as we see in Exodus 3, verses 6 and 15, and 4, 5, although the exact wording is used only in 1 Kings 18:36 by Elijah at Mount Carmel, and in 1 Chronicles 29:18 by David in his prayer at Solomon's coronation. The use of the verb shuv, return, in verse 6, and again in verse 9, as well as a reference to the destruction of the land by the kings of Assyria, and the exile of your brethren and your children, because your fathers and your brothers were unfaithful to the Lord God of their fathers, are all common themes in Chronicles. Interestingly, the letter, while exhorting the Israelites to extend a hand to the Lord and come to his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, does not specifically mention either the planned Passover or its postponement. It is in reality addressed to the people of the chronicler's day, who are supposed to take an example from those who humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem.
All right, then.
Yeah, that's pretty standard. Write a narrative into the past that you want people to imitate, and then say, see, you have to do what they did. It's tradition.
Tradition.
It might have been like a current issue that people weren't treating the Passover as a yearly event, and they were seeing it more as optional. And this was like the chronicler being like saying, no, it's supposed to be every year on time. The people were wrong for treating it like it was an optional thing. And so trying to tell people, I mean, do we think that the chronicler was talking before the exile the first destruction?
This
I think it's post-exilic, if I remember correctly. At least the prevalent
Second Temple?
I think like the prevalent I think around 400 to 300 BCE I remember
Lawrence,
correctly.
what's your take on the
I mean, it's still wet either way.
era of the chronicler?
I would say around I think what was it, 4th, maybe 5th century? Somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
but saying is it
post-exilic
post-exilic or yeah?
Oh yeah, it's
Post-exilic,
100%
yes.
post-exilic. Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
of course.
Okay, yeah. So during the temple period, Second Temple period times,
Yeah.
they might have had
Yeah.
these same issues, and then the chronicle would be like, see, in the First Temple times, they were doing it and they were wrong, so you should.
So
be
we have to
following
do the
good guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a parent telling stories about how a little boy or girl did this thing that you want to do, and then they died. Or if you're German, they were eaten by an owl. But either way, they died.
The Germans are a hoot.
Ugh.
Okay, on verses 10 through 11, Dillard comments, quote, "The chapter variously lists the involvement of the northern tribes. All from Beersheba to Dan were to be invited, though the heralds only went so far as Zebulun. Northerners came from Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun, and from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun," in verse 18. The use of Beersheba to Dan should be viewed as a useful hendiades for the full extent of the kingdom, even if the herald's itinerary was less than the entire land. The omission of the Transjordan tribes, Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh, and Naphtali, compare 34:6, may reflect the longer period of Assyrian domination in these regions and the deportation of their populations under Tiglath-Pileser III, as we see in 1 Chronicles 5:26 and 2 Kings 15:29.
Just a question. Maybe I don't know that word, but how do you spell the word hendiades? I just don't. It sounds like a good word. I just don't know it.
Where was it?
I feel I just spelled it out. I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah, Hendiadys, and I know that it's spelled hendiades because I checked it.
Oh, that's a cool word. The expression of a single idea by two words connected with and. Nice and warm. When one could be used to modify the other as in nicely warm. Oh, okay. So what's that? Okay.
All right, I
So,
missed
yeah, I
something.
mean-
What is it Tomer checked?
Hendiades.
Isaac wants to crush his family
You
with
speak English for fuck's sake! Why
Scrabble.
the fuck?
I've never heard the word hendiades before.
I
Unless
fuck
I'm
is
said,
mistaken.
hendiades?
I said that word a lot of times in this,
Yes.
in this show,
He
and
has.
somehow you
Hendiadys.
Yes.
yes.
Hendiades.
Hendiades, yes, hendiades, whatever.
Oh, okay. Sorry, maybe it's got another meaning. That
Yeah, part of one of the simpler tricks about using English words is to use words people use.
But these are scholars, Aaron.
Yeah, they go out of
like
their
their
way to use
Greek
words
and
that
Latin
are-
source
They
for it.
have to use the larger words to make them sound so much smarter than you.
Well, yes, they can certainly exacerbate
well,
because
Are-
they're loquacious sesquipedalians.
Are not always. I'm very happy that Lawrence explained Maximus of Tyre earlier because I thought for the longest time that was what you put on your Jeep.
Yes, in my case, yes.
isn't it like 4 psi or something like that?
Oh my god, you're all going down.
Yes, I have Maximus of Tyre. Actually, I even had to cut the frame to
Wow.
fit mine on.
Damn.
How big are your tires?
See?
37.
Jeez, man.
I didn't want to do a lift. It had already lifted 2.5 inches. I didn't want to lift it anymore because I don't want to lose my center of gravity putting up too high. I want big as fuck tires, but I don't want to raise the whole body up. Which I've seen a lot of other people that they jack the truck up and then leave the original fucking tires. Why? That's stupid. You know.
It's like it's on tippy toes.
Yeah, kind of. So keeping everything else as low as possible, but as the biggest wheels as possible, well, then you're going to get a lot further.
On verse 12, the hand of God was on the people to give them unity of mind. Yeah, because we're still in the chapter.
Thank you. Go. I
Thank you,
just love your
Isaac.
recovery.
Yeah, no, thank you, Peter. Sorry. Okay, so on the hand of God was on the people to give them unity of mind. Japhet comments, quote, divine inspiration, defined as the hand of the Lord, is the source of Judah's one heart. Only one other act is described in Chronicles with this same idiom, the enthronement of David. All the rest of Israel were of a single mind, literally one heart, to make David king, as we see in 1 Chronicles 12:38, which is 39 in the Masoretic text. The phrase itself is found only once more in Ezekiel 11:19, but its originality there is doubtful. The view that a complete commitment to keep the Lord's command is beyond human power and needs God's help is stated elsewhere in Chronicles in David's prayer, quote, grant to Solomon my son a whole heart that he may keep your commandments, end quote, in 1 Chronicles 29:19, and reflects the chronicler's awareness of the complexity of human choice. The chronicler posits an absolute moral responsibility and never tires of repeating that a man is responsible for whatever befalls him. At the same time, do you want to read? Do you? Because I work 2 hours a day to produce this.
I have to apologize, Tomer. Just as a word of warning, just because you get older doesn't mean you get mature.
Yeah.
Arguably worse.
Yeah. So, at the same time, he knows that the attainment of this perfect one heart or a whole heart may be beyond human power, and both the individual and the community need God's help.
I do love how it's the inspiration of God that makes all the people do the thing that their king and all of their ruling class has demanded that they do. That is totally God.
Yeah, it sounds like the fear of God was in them.
Yeah. Or the fear of God's ministers, which in reality is far more concerning.
On verse 16, Klein comments, quote, the reference to the Pentateuch, according to the Torah of Moses, does not refer to a specific passage, and Williamson concludes that this refers to priestly parts of the Pentateuch, which assumes the prominence of cultic officials on occasions like these. Japhet detects two innovations in this verse. While it is well attested that the priests sprinkled the blood on the altar for burnt offerings and for offerings of well-being, in Leviticus 1 verses 5 and 11, 3 verses 2 and 13, that is not how the blood was treated in the Passover account in Exodus 12 verses 8, 21, and 22, where it was spread on the doorposts. Second, the chronicler also has the Levites carrying the blood from the persons sacrificing to the priests who did the sprinkling. It is not clear in 2 Chronicles 29:22 and 35:11 from whom the priests received the blood. Compare Leviticus 3:2. These changes raise some questions about the chronicler's claim in this verse that they did this, quote, according to their custom, according to the Torah of Moses, the man of God. On verse 20, it is not clear as to what Yahweh healed the people from, since there is no specification of any illness which the people suffered from. Most traditionalists take the healing as Yahweh forgiving the people's transgression. Likewise, Levin notes that Waikil points out several passages in which the verb rafa, heal, is used as a remedy or an opposite of sin, as we see in 1 Chronicles 7:14, Psalms 41:5, which is 4 in the Old Testament. Klein writes that healing is a prevented act against any consequences of the people eating in an unclean condition. He writes that Yahweh's healing of the people also provides general approval for Hezekiah's Passover, even at its unconventional time.
Well, Jesus did cover for some of his delays in healing by forgiving people's sins first. So, it's a lot easier to heal people from sin. I declare you healed of all your sin. By the power of
Can I get a cookie?
Because if you tell somebody seriously, and we discovered this in the first part of this book, if you tell somebody to have a nice day, that's a blessing. Mm-hmm. If you tell them to slide her into a gas truck and takes their own blood, that's a curse. If you say that you hope that happens, that's a curse.
God, it'd never be nice to people.
I hope you have a blessed day. That's so powerful. I just turned it into a blasphemy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Lilith, for that. Although I don't suffer from sin, I'm very good at it.
Well, and I respect the skill that it takes, but I don't have as much faith in our fellow blasphemers to handle their sin.
I love Isaac's
Excuse
position
me,
on
my
that.
sister is
Yeah.
married to a girlfriend.
Lead me not into temptation, for I'll find it myself.
Yeah.
I got it from. There's an old joke about, do you suffer from? It's like Christians will say things like, what do they call it? MLM, MSM, like.
Oh, multi-level
Not
marketing
sodium.
schemes.
Oh no, I'm thinking of no, sorry, SSA, same-sex attraction.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Do you suffer from SSA? No, I'm very good at it. Thank you.
That's
Actually-
Oh, I
that's
thought
my
they were
argument.
referring to
when I
the-
say that I'm going to
What's
practice
suffering you're referring
alcoholism
to?
until I get really
I
good
thought-
at it.
I thought they were referring to the Social Security Administration. Like,
I actually don't suffer from same-sex attraction. I suffer from a lack of it. So if anyone finds the cure for heterosexuality, let me know.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. If I was bisexual, like if people told me that everybody's bisexual, you're bisexual, you just don't know it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would know.
Yeah.
And I would actually prefer to be bisexual because it leaves me a whole lot more options on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out that way for me. I've tried sushi, not my thing. I went to Kentucky. I tried every kind of bourbon they have. I'm not a bourbon guy. I tried. I want to enjoy the finer things in life. And yes, I tried homosexuality, but I never inhaled.
Actually,
I thought you
I-
were implying that you had tried sushi and you still didn't make you gay.
uh,
Oh my
was
God!
like,
I
oh,
wrote to Westboro Baptist Church about that.
Oh,
Really?
you wrote to
Okay.
them?
I wrote to them. Okay,
Oh,
so
I gotta
I'd
hear
watched
this.
the TED Talk. Okay, this is actually a really good story, so you might want to.
oh boy, here we go.
Come here.
This is fun. Now, I watched the TED Talk about one of the young ladies who got out of there, and she talked about how people talking to her and getting her to think helped to work her out. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I get these people to think? Also, how can I fuck with them a little bit and make it fun? So I looked at their website, godhates.com, and they had a doctrine that
God
says,
hates cigarettes.
yes, that one.
Mm.
And they had a doctrine in there that said specifically that God doesn't hate people because they are gay. He finds people he hates and makes them gay so he has an excuse to hate them.
Wow.
So I wrote to them and was like, I have a question. They're like, check out our FAQ. I'm like, no, I did. I have a clarifying question on a specific doctrine. And so then I went in with my resume. I really want some clarification on this point because I was raised Christian, Baptist, baptized, went to Bible school, yada, 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 yada. Then I discovered it's all bullshit. And now I've become a very, very emphatic, public, out and out atheist, decrying it at every corner. And I still am not gay. And ladies, I know we love some men, but wouldn't it be nice to have options? And I really am doing my best. We can test the theory. What do I have to do to make God hate me enough to be gay? Or at least bisexual. That's only half gay. What do I have to do?
Yeah. I've known a lot of people that were very versatile. I remember dating someone who also dated a number of my male friends. And then later she ended up moving in with a woman and has been spending the pretty much the rest of her life that way for a couple of decades now, quite happily.
I'm glad she's happy.
Yeah, and I'm like, I didn't know that was where you would end up. She said, I didn't either. I had fun either way. Well, good on you. Yeah.
See, I figured if I need to make God hate me to get the gay, then bisexual shouldn't be so hard. But they said God had instead infected me with the sin of pride, which I'm like, yeah, that's a lovely bit of skipping. I'm like, come on.
Charles Manson explained to Vincent Bugliosi how his mind control based on sex worked, because there was lots of different types of mind control employed, but Manson was the first one to use sex as a mind control device for his cult. And one of the things he would do was he would anally rape all of the members of his family in front of everyone else. And this was, that's male and female. And this was to deprive them of their pride. Because if you have, the way Manson put it was that if you have no pride, then pride is the only thing that prevents you from doing heinous things. You can do, if somebody has no pride, they'll do anything. Because pride comes attached to two other things. Now, he didn't say this. This is me saying this. Pride comes attached to honor and shame. If you have no pride, then you have no honor and you have no shame. And that makes you a perfect tool for religious manipulation.
Wow.
Incredibly fucked up and incredibly effective.
Yeah.
Okay. I see a comment. I see a comment. If you want to read it.
By the way, Tomer, I am so glad that you decided to turn your camera on.
Really?
Yeah, I appreciate seeing your face, and I think a lot of other people do too.
Well,
it's not really a bad face. Be proud of it.
No.
Well, that's not mine.
So Bruno Zeigert's.
Not half as bad as Lawrence's.
Exactly.
At least I can off my guitars.
I will never knowingly cast shit at Lawrence.
No.
Well, I'll do that for you, Ori.
Yeah,
No
he'll
problem.
do it for you.
Yeah.
Just type it in
don't-
the chat and he'll say it for you.
I don't want anyone to think that I ever have a moment of disrespect for Lawrence.
Listen. I take insults as respect. It's all good.
Okay, very good. Bruno Zeigert says offers $5 Californian, and says I tried cross-dressing, but it's so hard to get the sleeves over those wooden beams.
Yep. Yeah, that's why the toga. That's why he was crucified during the Roman
Yeah,
Empire.
I
'cause
really
I don't
should
think he
not
wore a
tell-
toga because he was a Jew, and Jews weren't allowed to wear togas because they were not.
I'm
I
just
really
saying,
should
in
not
the era.
tell the story.
Yeah. Not saying that I read the New Testament, just
Yeah.
You should read the New Testament, Tomer. It's really good. It's the best. You're
Homer
gonna love
will
it.
be here for the
It's really
duration.
interesting.
Oh.
moving
Jesus
on.
never
By the
Jesus
way,
never said anything against it.
there's going to be a time, Lawrence, when we need to wonder about or discuss what the next book is going to be that we read, because
Ezra
some
Nehemiah.
arrangements are in different orders.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah,
It's-
and
it's
I
going
need you to. Are we doing the Apocrypha?
So, if we're talking about like stuff like Tobit, then I mean we can.
I just want to say this. I have books for Ezra, not for Tobit.
Sure. No, I get that. No. Next. Yes, we are absolutely doing Ezra and Nehemiah, right?
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I see. Yes.
But like once we get to the point where some traditions leave out certain apocryphal texts and some traditions still have them in, I think that's what he's generally asking about. So yeah, that would be stuff like I mean we see, I don't know, right? Because we'll talk about it more later, but it does get more complicated because you have like Maccabees in there and Judith and stuff, and
We'll have to have a behind the scenes chat because I
yeah.
haven't actually read Maccabees. I really should read that.
Yeah.
there's Sirach. That's right. Oh my god. Okay, that was a
There's
fucking
definitely, like,
hellscape
there's,
to
like,
get through.
There's Hebrew ones, and then there's there's like third Ezra and stuff like that. which
There is a lot of
only in Greek.
Ezras. There are 6 Ezras.
Yeah,
If you want to count
if you
all of
cut
the
it up a certain
traditions.
way, it's 6 Ezras.
And
yeah.
you have first Esdras, which is second Esdras, then second Esdras,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is first
yeah.
Esdras. It's confusing as fuck.
It is,
And
yeah.
like,
Right.
why?
And then you also
It
have like the
just
Greek
wonders, like,
additions to Esther.
yeah, but that's like later on.
Yeah.
Moving on verse 25, foreigners. In Hebrew, gerim. Though the title ger in the Bible has different definitions given the context, in Chronicles it refers to those, quote, who came from the land of Israel and who lived in Judah, end quote, i.e. non-Israelites who were residing in Israelite territory. According to Exodus 12, 48, and 49, the Gerim were entitled to participate in the Passover, provided that they were circumcised. Klein notes that some scholars, like Kogan, think that the foreigners brought to Israel during the Assyrian domination were among the sojourners, and that it is unlikely referring to the Samaritans or Proto-Samaritans. Others, like Williamson, think that by the time of the chronicler, the sojourners would include those later known as proselytes. The expression land of Israel, found 4 times in Chronicles, is always linked with sojourners. The references 1 Chronicles 22:2 and 2 Chronicles 2:16, which is 17, deal with the time of David and Solomon, referring to sojourners in the land of Israel. Thus, Levin writes that the reference to the Gerim for the land of Israel connects Hezekiah to both David and Solomon, while the specific meaning here shows Hezekiah as following the Torah commandment of including the Gerim in the Passover celebration. And finally, on 26, since the days of Solomon, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. The comparison between Hezekiah and Solomon, which revealed itself in many aspects of the chapter, is now explicitly stated. Klein notes possible ways to interpret the incomparability statement. 1. There had not been a 2-week festival since the time of Solomon, according to as we see in 7:8. 2. There had not been a festival of a united Israel, including the north, since the time of Solomon. And 3. The united time of the festival is also the point of comparison. He notes that Jonker thinks that this evaluating reference refers to the celebration of the Feast of Unleavened Bread in 813. Levin writes that the author indicated, quote, all of the above, end quote, by leaving the statement purposely unclear, like this, in Hebrew, kazot.
It does make sense to leave it purposely unclear.
Yeah.
It's certainly effective.
That's the alternate title for the Bible.
Alternate to what? God got high?
That this God obviously was not high. Jesus, maybe, probably.
Might have been.
No,
Yeah.
no. Don't.
But this first God, the Jewish God, he's an angry drunk.
I'm not saying he took the happy drugs. Maybe it was some sort of psilocybin mushroom and the paranoid delusions, and he had a bad trip.
I grew up with a man that once he got a couple of beers in him, once he got a couple of drinks in him, gin, I think, was his thing, that's probably what's wrong with him. But once he got a couple of drinks in him, you knew everybody he hated and exactly why he hated them. And you know you knew, and everybody else at the party knew what a useless piece of shit you were.
Wow.
Don't go into the Hillman path.
Yeah, let's
please.
not.
Yeah.
Do we want to read the
Asshole
next
learning a
chapter?
joke.
So I was thinking about that earlier. I think that
How does it spread out?
if we okay, so if we don't do the next chapter, then we can split the next, like it would be split in 2 shows where we would end off Chronicles.
Yes.
So it would be like what, 3 and 3, right?
31,
Okay, so
32.
3 chapters the next
Yes.
time we meet, and then 3 chapters the next time after that is what you're saying?
Yeah, and that would be the end of 2nd Chronicles. Yeah.
Yay! And
Huzzah!
We're getting through this.
hopefully there's no Chronicles book 3.
Ugh.
So
Trump fans right when we don't have to read it.
I think you know, as you were asking before, Arn, I think it would be better, and it would save us quite a bit of time if we didn't do the Apocrypha, because I think it's reasonable to do the stuff that everyone agrees on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will.
But
You guide this.
yeah,
So no New Testament?
funny. No. So the I think that
Good one, Isaac.
once we get to like the end, you know, maybe like we'll talk about some of the stuff a little bit. But if anyone wants to read some of those apocryphal or deuterocanonical works, you know what? I got my show, Friday Apocryphal Podcast, that covered all those. So
Do check out Lawrence's other show. Seriously, Peter, can you put link in for that?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
incidentally,
sure.
the chat agrees, Tomer, that it's very nice to see you as a person and not just a math equation. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you know what the best part about being a math equation is that nobody understands you.
I think there was one person in the chat who understood your statistical.
Yeah, he saw that. Yeah,
analysis,
that's
whatever it
that's
is.
But it was
Stochastic.
yeah,
just spelling.
stochastic differential equation. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's my main field of study. So yeah,
Yeah, it's all Greek
Sounds-
to me.
I'm
Oh.
proud to show my superiority.
I mean, there's at least 2 Greek characters in there, so
Yes,
it's all,
yes.
it's all Greek to me.
I'm
Yes,
happy
yes,
enough that I
exactly.
can teach calculus without making my head explode. So I'll just take that and run with it.
Now,
Yeah.
let me, just to be clear, 2 Chronicles 31 is next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
By,
All right,
by the way,
I'm gonna go ahead
Arn,
and make a. I'm going to go ahead and make a link for that right now.
I post a
Yeah.
link to Lawrence's channel every show we do right after I post a link to Tomer's Discord server.
And for
Yes,
the person
because you're the attentive one and I'm the ignorant prick. I
no,
better
no,
than
no, he's your secretary. He does all the paperworky things. And to the person who mentioned it in the chat, Arn already did the Quran, although not all of those episodes are public for the safety and security of some of the participants involved.
Yeah.
Because the world runs that way now, and we have to respect that desire for safety.
Yep.
Indeed.
There have been a handful of people that were on that show, not just 1 or 2, that later contacted me and say, I can't be known. It can't be known that I was in this conversation or that I said these things. So
It's a shame
Because I had
that really
people
was
from
an
all over the
amazing
world.
show.
I had people from all over. I had people from 5 Muslim countries that were on that show.
I wonder if there would be a way to re-edit some of those videos to, hide names and faces and distort
I'm not going to go
voices.
through all that because it's an intense amount of work.
That
What
is
I'd
an
like
intense
to-
amount of
What
work.
I wanted to do was I wanted to take a collection of all my blog posts that were based on that and put them all together as a book. However, when what it was hosted on Pathos a couple of years back, they said they were bought out by Mormons.
Mm.
And so they were trashing everything that was critical of faith. And they offered me an opportunity to save all my shit, but unfortunately they didn't save quite all my shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm missing at least, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe 9 surahs in my analysis of the Quran.
Nerds, the internet is forever.
That is true. The internet is forever. But on the bright side, I'm doing the Quran right now on my channel.
That's
Outstanding.
Yeah, and we got a shit ton of commentaries.
absolutely.
Mhm.
There's this really interesting one. It's kind of a commentary. It's from Gabriel Said Reynolds. It's called The Quran in the Bible. So he shows essentially a lot of, like, I guess you'd call them source texts in a way. Not quite, but he shows how, like, some ideas, like, reflect biblical themes. Although he leaves a lot of stuff out, because if you've read the Bible as many times as I have, you see a lot of shit that like, I mean, I'm sure he's read the Bible too, but but you see, like,
What
a lot of
about-
shit that he just doesn't note.
What
That's
about
another
stuff
funny
that's not in the
thing.
Bible that's, like, obvious, like taken from, let's say, the Talmud or Midrash,
Yeah.
Peshitta.
Yeah,
That's
he points
another
out
funny
too.
thing, Lawrence. I mean, when you say when you read the Bible as many times, I've gone over the Gospels over and over again, just those 4 books. And every time I read it, I'm like, how the fuck did I not notice this thing before?
Yeah, every reading you notice something new.
Yeah.
Wear your face protecting oven mitt, you will face palm. But in fairness, Lawrence, like, genuinely, there are so many. Remember the first episode of this show, Arn? We spent like 3 hours talking about the first 4 verses. And we had to be like, okay, we can't do this for the whole book. We'll be here into eternity. Someone needs to turn us all into vampires. But legitimately, there are dozens of different angles you can look at this from, historically, theologically, literarily, all kinds of things. And absolutely none of them involve magic god dictaphone into brain of magic prophet who is totally legit and infallible.
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting things that I've noticed. Like, I'm sure you guys have heard that, like, Muhammad was illiterate, so like, oh, this is one of the great like miracles or whatever. So nothing's miraculous about dictating a text. Like, so many authors have dictated text to be written by someone who could write, or just to make it easier, right? Like, they have multiple people doing it. There are
Paradise
many
Lost and Regained. John Milton dictated that to his daughters because he'd gone blind.
Oh shit, yeah. I didn't know that.
Muhammad didn't even have a top hat to look into.
Somebody just posted.
Somebody
just posted in the chat that Ozzy is in heaven right now. Problem with that is, one, there is no heaven. But secondly, if Ozzy is, if there was a heaven and Ozzy is in it, well, then that must mean that once saved, always saved, because didn't Ozzy, right toward the end of his life, just in the last few years, he took a stance against religion in total, where he wrote, God is dead.
Good for him. But yeah, I just think that maybe God just really wants Ozzy to like him. But no, I am a Hell's Bells girly, and I maintain that if Ozzy is anywhere, he is with Azzy in Margaritaville, and they are still drinking.
Okay.
I did want to finish the thought though.
I am so sorry.
So, that's all good.
My apologies.
So the thing is, well, what's your, like, when you read the Quran, you notice that, like, he doesn't cite verses. He doesn't explicitly quote things. So I believe that he was illiterate, but I also think that he just dictated this stuff. So nothing miraculous about that.
It just seems to be based on oral tradition, which is fine. That was totally a thing, but it's not magic.
So many of God's servants were completely illiterate. Look at Trump.
I don't know that he counts as God's servant, more like God's plague. He ran out of locusts, so he sent Trump.
Yeah.
Though Satan is threatening to sue South Park because depicting him in bed with Donald Trump irrevocably soiled his image.
If you guys have not seen that episode.
As if he hadn't already slept with Saddam Hussein.
Yeah, Trump
I mean,
was
they use the
worse.
same, the same voice, the same, like, they gave him like the Canadian thing that they do, right, with
the weird head,
and actually the same lines too. Same lines from before. A lot of them more.
It's good stuff, yeah.
If you guys have not watched that episode, I'm not trying to plug anything because, well, you know that is, but they're back, baby.
The internet exists. We will all find it.
I'm going to find this precious little girl who shed while the show was going on. I watched her peeling off her own. Yeah, she's going to go on a bar crawl with me tonight too.
Aww.
Hello, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, she's so active for a boa. Anyway, thank you very much.
Does anyone else? Yeah.
I am so happy with all of you. Any final comments?
Yeah, absolutely. Join the Discord. Subscribe to Milwaukee Atheist. The two most important things you'll ever do in your whole life, because your lives are meaningless. All right, that's the show, everybody.
God is dead and all life is futility. Drink for Ozzy, people.
Ah, yes. And no bat heads, please. Bye, everyone.
Come here. Come here. Hey.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.